even when they didn't know he was coming, they still came. And Jaxi was getting, they were chanting Jaxi's name. They were chanting Imma's name. Like, these guys were just loving Counter-Strike from start to finish. So I don't think there was too many other disappointments. I will start to say, though, Mongols are getting more stage experience, but they are disappointing me that they're not getting this far. And the same for Eternal Fire. Both Eternal Fire and Mongols for me right now are great group stage teams, can make playoffs. Like, I'm in my mind, any event they enter into, they can make playoffs. But I expect them to be going further than just exiting the quarters soon. Blast have to make a god tier trophy this time, otherwise they're going to be ultimately memed for the rest of their careers.
Such a bad trophy. It haunts me when I think about it. Yeah, but it's just like, it's marketed as a 1 million prize pool tournament, and if you come 5th to 8th, you get 18 grand. That to me is just insanity.
It's the All About Counter-Strike podcast, back for our 4th episode. It is the 26th of February, 2025. It's 1929 for me over here in Ukraine. That means it's 1829 for Devilwalk in Sweden right now. And it's been a while because this felt like more of an extended break because of how quickly Cluj was going from groups into the main event. I'm actually, I think you said earlier today on stream, mate, that I still sound like I've got a different voice every time because of being sick, but I feel a lot better.
Yep.
I feel like I'm good. I feel like I'm in a nice spot.
No, I mean, yeah, it's definitely been a different voice every time I hear you. Which, I mean, I understand. I've been to plenty of events myself, and every time you get home with some kind of sickness, you know, meeting so many people, shaking hands, meeting fans, running around, you're stressed, you have a lot of work to do, late hours, no sleep. It's definitely understandable.
Dying slowly can happen.
Yeah.
You've still got that thing in your eye. I can still see that.
Yep.
So you haven't gone to the
It's
doctor.
not going away.
You haven't got better.
No, I don't go. Well, I'm
Brother,
better.
we had this conversation. You need to go to doctors.
Well, I'm better, but my girlfriend's still convinced I'm a little bit sick.
Because you didn't go to the doctor?
Yeah, but I don't know. I come from a family where we just call it in Swedish biting the sour apple and just like kind of sticking with it until it gets better.
That's a horrible.
Also, I mean, I don't want to overwhelm the healthcare system if it's not necessary.
Overwhelm the healthcare system. You sound like you don't at all. So maybe just to feel better, you could just go, you know, kind of what it's there for. You pay a lot of taxes.
The worst part about it is the hospital is legit a 5-minute walk here from here.
Cool. So you're just making me feel like you have less excuses for this bullshit you're telling me.
Yeah.
Smooth.
I'm an honest guy.
I do respect that. I will say this. On the previous episode, we were fucking so happy. We were like, we've got the same microphones. We're back. We've also now got the same headsets as well. The Ace Zone, Aspire wireless headset. I've obviously used, everyone's seen all my content and streams. I've used Ace Zone since they came out. They kindly gave me a pair. Now I've upgraded to the wireless. They have an app that you can, by the way, this is an advert. We have no sponsors. We are just rocking it ourselves, but they kindly gave it to us from seeing what we're doing on the podcast. And this is nuts because if you download the app for the headset, you can change modes that give you like better EQ and sound so you can hear footsteps further away in Counter-Strike. Then you can change it when you listen to music to like be extra bassy or something. They got all these presets in there. You can toggle it all yourself as well. Yeah, and look at us now. We actually look professional.
Yeah, and I mean, it has these modes as well, just like, you know, I've only really experienced it with other headsets that you've used, like kind of through the mobile phone, where you have the white noise and
the noise cancelling,
transparent mode, if you want that. So if you want to like listen to your girlfriend or not, you have those modes.
Bro, mine's off like all the time, as in like I'm fully can't hear anything around me. But it doesn't help sometimes. Like when I'm streaming, it's great. But I know I'm shouting and I'll get a message from my wife and she's like, "You're too loud." And I'm like, yeah, it's fucking 1 a.m. And I don't realize because I'm locked into the noise cancelling world. But yeah, shout out to Ace Zone. Thank you very much for hooking us both up because now we look like professional podcasters in some way.
Yeah, same mic. It's only the chair left.
That chair's not going anywhere. No, one day we'll get you an upgrade. One day. Shout out to any companies from chair sponsors that might be wanting to do it. Send Devilwalk a chair, and we're good. There you go. Everything's all fixed after that.
Yeah.
We've actually got a lot to discuss in this episode because I was running out the door. We filmed the last episode before I drove to Romania. Oh, let me just tell you, driving to Romania was fucking mental. Like, my wife was driving, yeah, and we leave Ukraine. It's supposed to be a 12-hour drive to Bucharest. Bro, we could have died. Like, there was a point where she had to stop over on the side and sleep. And because the border between Ukraine and Romania has now entered the Schengen now. And so that means it qualifies for dates
Oh.
in Europe. Well, before we used to just drive through the border, they hardly check your car, no one gives a damn. You just roll through, everyone's happy. Bro, this time the queue was huge. They're doing like all the proper European checks, like VIN number of your car, looking under the car. They get to us after we've waited in the queue for like 3 hours. And they're just like, "Oh, you're British." And I'm like, "Yeah, hi, man." And he's like, "I've been to London once," and then doesn't check anything on our car. We cruised for like, we had the most,
What?
bro. The dude was just happy because I wasn't Ukrainian. I swear to God. He was
But,
just
what the hell? But you should be getting checked anyways.
exactly. Dude, it was the funniest thing ever. Like, he just made me open the boot, didn't even open the suitcase or anything, put the boot down, didn't even like do the knocks to see if I've carried anything in the car. He was just happy as hell to speak English, and it was a British person. I was like, this is the best. But still, that massively delayed us. So my media day was at 10 a.m. We were supposed to arrive at like 2, 3 in the morning on the day, and then I could sleep for a few hours and do media. We arrived at 9 a.m. I had to get in the shower as soon as I got in the hotel, and then I was straight into
Oh,
media.
damn.
Yeah, it was, bro. And then do you know how many? I had to do all 16 teams interviews. So all 16 teams interview content, all the pre-planned content, and I mean,
But
I'm
I
buckled,
can imagine you being pretty grumpy at that point.
bro. I was banging Monster energy drinks. I was like slamming them. One, two, just like that day couldn't end quick enough. But shout out to all the teams for being on time and being good. Like, I think we only at one point maybe like 5-10 minutes delayed, and it wasn't even a problem. So we got it done. We're gonna start with Cluj though. So let me bring this up for Cluj.
Yeah.
Cluj was incredible from many aspects. I'll obviously you're a viewer watching it from home, Devilwalk, but as someone who was there, I will say that it was good to not see all the top teams in some ways. Um, I'll get into some points on some teams that skipped again. I've got some more information on that I found out while I was there. But it gave us, like a different style of event. And I would say what PGL pulled off is bringing us back to Cluj, starting it in Bucharest, then moving on up. It went flawless. We didn't really have many tech issues or big problems. It was just a solid event. And for the prize money that was there and PGL's commitment to Counter Strike in the way they're doing it, the way they're sticking to their guns, not doing the club share, not doing anything like that, is very impressive. And I will just say, what is so nice is like kind of similar to what I get where you're like, you have really a huge amount of input in the show with PGL. If we
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
change something as talent, if we want to move something, if we want to have a suggestion, every tournament organizer, by the way, there's no tournament organizer that's not open, but some are like, we need to do this, this, and this. But PGL is like completely open to how we want to do it. Now, there are some things they don't have, it's less maybe on the flexibility. Like, we don't have voice comms, for example, we don't have the coach timeout
Yeah.
comms and stuff like that. But it runs well. The players, like everyone from FaZe, from Big, um, Eternal Fire, everyone was talking so positively about PGL. They have the best PCs, by the way. The PCs are unreal. It's like the AMD. It's like a better PC than I have at home, and I run 600 FPS. Like, they
Yeah.
are the
But
best tournament PCs possible.
I remember even when I was doing Antwerp with PGL, right? A lot of the teams and players, they remember even talking to like the B&E boys about this. They always said like PGL is probably the best event you can be at as like a player,
Yeah.
like how they take care of you, how they treat you, how they make you feel special in some sense. And it's not like everything is perfect from the start,
No,
but
definitely
they're
not.
always accommodating with fixing things like right on the spot. Like if there's something that isn't, working,
Yeah.
they're flexible in that sense, and will and that, from a player perspective or talent perspective is just super nice. Like things aren't like set in stone. They even in not only in like production things, but also like in accommodation or
Yep.
helping you fix things, or doesn't even matter what it is. You can think about anything from from the ground up, and they are willing to change what they've set up and make sure that it's the best possible for everyone.
And there's another element to that as well, which I think is nothing against your ESLs and your Blast, but because it is a family company, I describe it as a family company, but it's like doesn't have investors, doesn't have like a massive hierarchy where you've got to go to 35 people to get something approved. Like Silviu's there every day, pretty much, and you can talk to him, you can message him, you can ask for something, and like say you're someone who's working with the players and teams and you have a problem and he can just be like, "Okay, take the credit card, solve it," you know?
Yeah,
Like,
and I
that's
feel
a game
like
changer, man.
it reminds me a little bit, the closest thing I can think of is like old DreamHack events with the old crew
Yeah, when it was with the
and
full
stuff like
Scandi
that.
crew,
Like,
right?
yeah, and like everything isn't perfect, but there's super nice people
Yep,
around it that you just feel like, part of it. You can just go back at production and talk to, some guy you met at another event, or and they wouldn't mind,
yep,
and it just feels like everyone is part of the show in some sense, not just separating different areas where you're not allowed to be here or you're not allowed to be there, kind of thing. So I think it reminds me of like an old school dream hack.
for sure. Yeah, yeah, I can relate to that. I didn't have too much I didn't even work many of the Dreamers. I think I worked 1 DreamHack total, but, I know that from just when I used to work for Zowie and we used to go to DreamHack and do that, you see the same people and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
I'm gonna start with what I think is the funniest thing of the whole event is I told you about Media Day, right? Well, before we got into, like, doing the actual podcast. So Saw came on Media Day. Mutiris, I love him, but my God, he didn't know anything of what was going on. Like, he was telling me, I don't know how to lead this. I'm struggling with this. I've been through this before, but I don't have the answers right now. I don't know what I can do with this team. Bro, then the day after media day, they announced they're kicking 2 players. I'm like, I did a whole interview with you thinking you're just keeping this team going. And you didn't tell me this, bro. So, like, the running joke was they kept running the Saw interview where they just talk like, so the way we do interviews at PGL is not like a pre match every game. They like to focus on getting the game time out faster. So my job during
Yeah.
groups is obviously no stage or anything. It's just the interview we did on media day and some content during the rest of it. That's my focus. And it's cool, man. It works well. It's a different flow, but it's good. It's hilarious though how Saw could have just told me that and it would have set a better narrative for the whole content because this was a dead team walking that still made playoffs. And we put a short out of this. We put a short and we put a TikTok out on our channels saying we got five out of eight, correct? Making through to playoffs.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 out of 8 right,
Uh,
making playoffs. We obviously underrated Mouse, I think. We
we
said Big
did.
we're gonna make
Yeah.
it as well.
Yeah, and we did not expect Saw to make it.
No, no one would, man. And it was they became the team with no pressure on them.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a weird thing watching them. Like I remember I watched the 3D Max versus Saw game, and I thought it was one of the worst games I've seen of Counter Strike
You
in a
tweeted
long
it. I
time.
remember you tweeted it.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many examples from that game where it just felt like they both embraced chaos, but like in almost the worst way possible. It was failed mollies, failed utility, where you just throw it, kind of like comedic ways onto
Yeah.
yourself. I remember doing like a short explode. There's 0 flashes for the Opera on long. It's 5v5, like they
Yeah,
should have
yeah.
some utility left. They just got short control and did an explosion, and they have no flashes for long. So just get picked apart. And it's almost like one team is getting around, not because they did something good, but because the other team did something bad. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's how I felt watching that game,
It was
and that's why I would just sit there and I would be thinking like, why are you doing this? You know, like the coach brain kind of just kicked in, and you just get mad at watching it. So
It was super
you know,
disappointing though. Like, should we just quickly look at the teams that Saw beat? Let's look at this. So Saw lost to FaZe, lost to Astralis. You expect that. They beat FlyQuest. Now, I'm not saying FlyQuest is bad. Every team Saw beat on their 0-2 run should have been capable of beating Saw. Yeah. Especially considering
yeah,
they're a dead team. I don't care what people say about we have the pressure off us, because yes, that's a factor. But this was like FlyQuest should be a better team, better protocols together. Even with Regali coming in, they should be able to take that. Okay. Then Complexity, it's like, this is embarrassing for you now because you're supposed to be able to try and get a win. Like, you go,
yeah.
I just I need to look back at the Complexity results.
I
So
mean, the
Complexity
complexity
only
won
beat
against
Imperial Valkyries. Yeah,
Valkyries.
that was it.
Yeah,
And with no offense to
yeah,
Imperial Valkyries, you still haven't beaten a team close to your level on LAN all year. Like, it's been rough. And I know they
yeah.
changed 2 players. You lose Elise, it's huge. But this is like hella worrying signs. Then I even said, right, okay, surely 3D Max do it. And you said obviously the game was terrible. But like, this losing to Complexity and 3D Max losing to Saw is unacceptable. Pressure off or not, you should be able to just handle them by playing your normal Counter Strike. Yeah. Even if they're being
Yeah.
loose, even if Muteris is calling some wild shit.
And it's, I mean, it's also the kind of the context of, you know, 3D Max played a good game against Eternal Fire. They almost beat them. They were super close. And then they come against this, you know, against Saw, and they get 2-0'd. Yes, it was close. It was back and forth. The Dust 2 was just full chaotic
Mhm.
back and forth where everyone had control of the game every single round. It was kind of like, okay, they are money screwed now. Okay, let's the other round goes over, and it just felt like, yeah, just pure chaos. And 3D Max should win against a dead team in that way,
Yeah.
even though Body is coming in fresh into the
Hey,
lineup.
he looked good
You know, the
though.
context of them playing, yeah, they played a good some good games. It's just disappointing that, you know, when it came to the the important game, they kind of crumbled, and they
Yeah.
couldn't get into it. I will do say sometimes you will end up in those scenarios where you just kind of get grabbed into the moment of the game, like things are just chaotic. You can't find any solid
Mhm.
ground, and you know the comms become chaotic because, you know, frustration just grows in both teams in this point of time, because you're winning rounds you shouldn't be winning, you're losing rounds you shouldn't be losing. um so there's a lot in that sense, but that's something you have to learn to stabilize a little bit when you're coming into these kind of playoff tournaments.
For
And
for
you know,
sure.
coaches are important in that aspect to kind of calm them down, take a pause, let's breathe, you know,
Yeah.
let's center ourselves again.
Try and go back to
But
what you're
yeah,
supposed to be doing.
yeah, full crazy. I'm, you know, did not expect them to make at least. I thought they maybe win one game this
Yeah.
tournament, but winning three was a big shocker for me.
They got some important points from it though, right? All things considered. So it's not it's good for now they bring the new players in, but obviously that changes up more things. I want to touch on the crowd as well, because I saw some comments that like we the talent and even the players were pandering to the Romanian crowd. I want to touch on this so much because I do my pandering like to a crowd when I'm on a stage. I'll happily admit that, right? Where I'm trying to get them behind me to hype everything up to go forward. This crowd did not need it. We opened the show on a Friday morning and it was like 9:30 in the morning. Obviously, it was not full on the first day. It was not even close to full, right? But dude, they cheered when Richard's face just appeared on the screen and he's doing his opening monologue. They were cheering.
No, they were great. They were great. You could hear it throughout the whole broadcast. Like they pretty much every moment, even like a half-ass good moments, you know, in the game, they were
Yeah.
cheering like it was the best thing ever.
And you know why I felt like this is? It's been 10 years without elite Counter Strike. that this means so much to them. I'm just gonna grab my phone a sec, and I'm gonna give you the name of this guy. I posted him on my story today.
I
So,
saw the guy with the sign
bro, yeah.
of like the old
So,
Cluj-Napoca 2015
were
with
you at
like
Cluj-Napoca
Michael.
2015, by the way?
I was not there,
This is just
but
after your Fnatic
Michael
bit.
was there. Yeah, yeah. I think it was one or 1.5, 2 months after I quit or something.
So this guy, I'm gonna shout him out a sec. Katam, Cataam or AAAM on Instagram. He has all these pins collected. He made me sign one of them as well. Like the old major pins you used to be able to get. He's framed it with a shirt. I'll take a screenshot of this and we'll post it on the video.
Yeah,
It's also got a sign, like what you said. So the signs people hold up at events. This is the Cluj-Napoca 2015 sign with old signatures on that he got some of us to re-sign, so he got even more players on it. It's a Logitech G t-shirt, I guess, one from like the Cloud9 colors, by the looks of it.
I think
And
it has like Nothing's autographs,
yeah,
Dreams,
so
Michael.
he's got everyone on there, and then he's come back 10 years later. You are the dream fan to me. Like, you are the hardcore fan that's been watching as long, maybe longer than some of us talent who have worked it. And you love the game so much that you even come back 10 years later for that opportunity. And I'll say this, the crowd was cheering for everything. They cheered for good Counter-Strike. They booed Astralis, but then cheered them when they won anyway to give them the respect they deserve. They were a great crowd. And I heard
Yeah,
stories that people were going to refund tickets when Navi were not attending. Let me start by saying this. I am the biggest Navi fan, but you hurt PGL, not Navi, by refunding your tickets. If anything, you go there and you say, fuck you, Navi. What is this shit you're doing? Yeah, why are you not giving me Immer in his home country for us to support him? You know, they are the ones that denied it. Your problem should not be with PGL. So you should still
no,
come if you love Counter Strike. I can understand some hardcore fans be like, oh, I wanted to go for Navi, that's it. But it's like, this showed us that even then on Sunday we were full. On Saturday we were almost full. The crowd was booming. You could do anything on that stage. I'm pointing this way, that side screaming. I'm pointing front, they're screaming. Tell us, like, they were eating out of my hand on anything we did.
yeah.
Anything we did.
No, it's great. It was great. But I also Imme did show up, right? And did like
Yes.
autograph signing and
So,
everything, which obviously is their like local hero.
bro, this is I'll give the story on that as well. He wasn't sure he was going to be able to come because of practice schedule, which obviously the practice schedule is so important. But
Yeah,
he basically came into a situation where on Saturday, Sunday, they would not be doing the practice. So on Friday night, he said, no, I'm not going. Then Friday later on, he's like, oh, I can go. So Navi said he has to go, obviously wear his jersey and stuff. He did a signing session that was like 3 hours long, 3 hours of signing. They were all there loving for him. Then he stayed and joined Jaxi, who's like a co-streamer. Jaxi's a high-level Faceit player. He has the biggest Faceit group, or Faceit club, should I say, full of Romanian players. And
yeah,
like, it's huge, man. It's epic and huge. And then he has literally built the Romanian community around him. I think at the very beginning, he just did Imes games. Now he co-streams like all of it in Romanian, full Romanian, and he's very
oh
chill.
wow.
When I came to them, by the way, Ima and Jaxia sat there doing the games. I came just to see him, and they're eating Subway while covering one of the games. You know, just chilling. Like, everything's good, everything's fine. So like,
That's,
I'll say this, that it's great that Ime came, and that's a huge win for everyone. But like, even when they didn't know he was coming, they still came. And
yeah,
Jaxi was getting, they were chanting Jaxi's name, they were chanting Ima's name. Like, these guys were just loving Counter Strike from start to finish. And I am so impressed with the crowd without any pandering, without anything like, woo, yeah, you're back. The only sad thing I think is that until there's a bigger arena in Romania, they won't get a major again, even if they deserve it for being an awesome crowd.
yeah. I found it a little bit. This is a little bit off topic though,
Mhm. You
but
go, you go.
uh, you know, like there's always these like at Australian events or German events, they have this like beer snake.
Oh, yeah.
I found it so funny. Everyone sitting there with a Heineken can. Like, and they're trying to do a beer snake with that. You know, like midsummer celebrations, like in Sweden, where you have
Yeah, yeah.
like a what is it called, like a crown almost, like around your head
Yes,
of
the
like
girl did it.
flowers and
Yeah, yeah,
stuff.
with
Yeah, the
beer.
girl did it with the beer cans. It looked so. It looked funny, man.
They made
But
a
it
trophy
just.
as well out of beer cans and gave it
Oh,
to
really?
yeah, it's a streamer award and they gave it to Jaxie. Honestly,
That's
like
actually sick.
win
But
crowd.
that's the kind of thing you love about Counter Strike. You know, like when communities meet and you get to see this kind of like grassroots community come and share for tier one event,
Yeah.
and it's like when we went to that Finnish land. You know, like
Elisa. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and like the fans are crazy. You know, one guy is just like, I don't know, he shaved his head and everyone's like photographing
We're
his head.
signing his head, just bald head, yeah.
And you know, someone has a bucket, you know, and like they're just doing like trolley things, you know. I love that.
And do you know, and one more last thing on this as well for the crowd. I did a signing session in between maps on the grand final because obviously I work every game, so I don't have time to do a signing session like after I finish my work. I did it between map 1 and map 2. I was still going when map 4 started, so it took 2 hours for me to
Oh
do my
wow.
signing session before people stopped coming. And I'm just a talent. I'm not a player.
Did you miss the final?
No, I was watching on my phone and then kept getting score updates from
Ah,
everyone.
okay.
Oh, dude. It was so impressive. We also, mate, we should look at like just looking at the event as a whole, teams that
Yeah.
impressed us, and I'll let you start. Who impressed you in this? Which teams were you like? They did better
So
than
I
expected
was
or good?
thinking about this. So I'll kind of like, I'll just mention the three and I'll go through each one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one that kind of impressed me a lot was Astralis. And they had a 3-2 to qualify for playoffs, but I actually thought during their playoff they actually played some great Counter Strike. If we look at the group stage, they lost to Pain, great team. They lost to Falcons, who obviously made it to the finals.
Yeah.
They beat Saw, MIBR, and Big. So kind of like a sketchy group stage in some sense, but they played two great teams to get the losses. Going into like the playoff, I think they impressed against Mongols. I never thought that Mongols would lose to Astralis. And you know, they had a very secure Mirage win and obviously like
Yeah.
an overtime win on Inferno. But then you can just move on. And
Mongols
this
are
is kind
still
of the
struggling on the stage,
craziest.
though. I'll give them this. The
Yeah.
Mongols is still their group stage is so much better than their like. If that was a group stage game, I think Mongols win. And
Yeah, I was having a little bit of a conversation with like Michael Lela about it. It just felt like he was saying like this just felt like this experience thing. Like
yeah,
this is
yeah.
why Astralis won. It's just like they're more used to being on that kind of stage and you know ready to make these ballsy calls and adjustments mid game, which when you're not used to it, you kind of choke down to it and just go for simple solutions, which can kind
Before
of
you
bite
move
you in the
away from
ass.
Astralis as well, I just want to look at something here. So let me see where Astralis players are at. Like I'm looking at ratings. So Yabi, great in every series. Stare is a beast for the positions he plays. Device,
Yeah.
even when sick in that third place. So I remember he had to walk off stage. Oh, it's so funny, by the way. So like
Yeah, I had to take a breather, like for like I was at like
he
5 minutes or
he
so.
obviously has health issues, right? Which is public knowledge because he's had stress and it's hard for him, which is why he wasn't at the major and things. Now he has this during a game, which was obviously a very intense game. He was feeling sick. I'm not sure if it's the same sickness or not. No one gave us that information. But basically, we were told not to mention it. Yeah. And then Cadian on the winners interview with me was like, Device was sick. Like, respect to him. He still played good. I'm like, okay, well, I guess we're talking about it now. And so, like, good job from him. Stown may end with a 1.07 rating, but I am still his biggest critic when he is on stage. So you said Astralis impressed. I think in some ways, Astralis are lucky you have Stare and Yabby who can be that good when Stown
Yeah.
should be your star and he is not the same player on stage. Win or lose, he's not giving me what I like. I think he's a great player. Don't get me wrong, but I'm holding him to a higher level than what he's showing. And he has had more than enough time in his career to be good on stage now. something has to change. Get him a performance coach that can work with his mental or something. I know they have it; they already have one, but like, what's going on, man? I want so much more from him.
Yeah, and I mean, if we would have gotten a little bit more, they could have potentially won this tournament because we can look at just the mouse game. If we move on, they have a
Yep,
12-4 lead.
that was such a
12-4
throw.
lead, full money control. They're on the CT side of Inferno, right? This is a map where essentially, if you have that kind of lead, you could essentially four-man stack B every round and win the game.
Eventually, you'll win.
Like
Yeah,
you could do that. I'm not saying obviously teams don't play that way,
you
but just like
shouldn't.
statistically, you could do that, or like probability wise. But either way, they lose that game or the map from a 12-4 lead.
Yep,
They, I think, fully deserved the nuke win against Mouse. They
yeah,
controlled that game
bro.
perfectly,
That T side from them on
just
Nuke
like they
was
did on
solid.
Inferno early on.
Yeah,
And essentially, Astralis could have been in the finals against Falcons in this case.
yeah,
Uh, they also played an incredible game against FaZe in the third place decider,
yep,
which this is the game you were talking about where he had to take a break.
yes,
And I understand why. I think even a person
bro.
that isn't sick
You
needs a
played
break from this
3
game.
maps. That was a best of 5. This best of 3 was a best of
Yeah,
5.
exactly. So it's like huge respect, obviously, to Device, but it was a 28-24 loss on Mirage.
Yep.
And this was also a Mirage. I'm pretty sure they had I think they had 12-8 or 12-9 lead,
Hmm.
which FaZe made the comeback to overtime to eventually 3 maps later win it. Uh, and then they won, very stable, controlled Inferno and Ancient, like I
But
feel
I want
like
to ask you this
Astralis
then.
did a lot more than what everyone's been talking about Astralis, right? Everyone's
Yeah,
been like, okay, they're nowhere near the level they need to be. They're not gonna make deep tournament runs, and I understand. Yes, maybe Staven wasn't the greatest, but it does look like Cadian is getting a lot better with the rifles.
agree.
He's also picking up, the double up at some
Oh,
points
that's huge
where
when he does
some
that though.
maps,
It's actually
yeah,
very good.
and getting a lot of impact with it, and it just feels like they're a lot less chaotic on the T sides, and I just feel like that they're heading in the right direction. I don't necessarily think they're going to be like one of the big teams, for 2025,
I'm not putting him in
but
top 6 yet.
they're definitely not the kind of meme team. I think people have been kind of painting the picture of them. They should do 10 times better than what I think they had the chance to win this tournament. And I think they
But
fucked up.
I'll say this. This is what I wanted to ask you about, right? Because you're being very positive on him. I have my issue with just Stown because I want him to be better. I know he can be better. We've seen it. But I will say the biggest difference for me here was their T sides are so much better.
Yeah.
Cadian now calling with the rifle. He's learning to call, not with the AWP anymore, where he can control so much of the map, see so much of what's going on. He's working the system in back again. There was moments I saw where Cadian pulls off something amazing, Stown's hyping him up, da 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 da,
Yeah.
and then Stown does something sick, and then Cadian's hyping up. That takes me back to those amazing heroic days, which we've all been looking
Yeah.
to see
Yeah.
again here. I'm so happy to see that. And like, someone could easily call me a Stown hater. No, I just want to see Stown get back to that point. I even tweeted about it. Like, there are moments where I can see what he can do. He just needs to have that confidence again. I think as their T sides continue to improve, like we saw this event, then we can get a good Astralis. But it's still some cohesion on their CT sides that's missing.
Yeah. But I think this is just like the point. They're going to grow from this tournament. Like they're going
Hmm.
to be better just because of this. They got a third place finish at a top tier event, which it's been a long time coming. Especially, I mean, this group of players haven't really achieved anything together,
No.
notably. And I think this could be, the start to gaining some stability and growth for them. I still don't consider them, a deep run team, but they're on the right path.
By the way, I love how you said like top tier tournament. People kept telling me over and over again, this is a tier 2 tournament. This had 5 of the top 10 teams in the world in attendance. This was not a tier 2 tournament.
Yeah.
Maybe just because the very top were not there. which wasn't like a good decision from the
It
top
might be
teams.
a
We'll talk about it later.
1.5 tier
1.5.
tournament.
Yeah, 1.5, I can argue, but don't ever be talking about it's a tier 2 because this was not a tier 2 tournament at all.
No.
Okay,
So
we,
we
we did
can move
we did a
on
lot on
a little bit.
Astralis. Yeah.
Yeah. So the
We
other team is Falcons for me.
okay.
So I think the biggest thing with Falcons, I think they actually look really good at times. Especially, I think Nico looked absolutely insane. Obviously, won
MVP.
the MVP of the tournament, and there's a big reason, why they did so well. But they do actually look quite clean. I think Magisk stepped up a big deal this tournament. I also thought Tessus was actually insane this tournament,
He can be
and
the second star of that team on a rifle.
I never expected that. Like, obviously, Tess is a great player, and I've always thought that. But I always thought, it's going to be kind of like a Nico, and I hope Dexter kind of shows up and
Yeah.
takes that kind of star position.
Did you
But
see the
Tessus was
difference between Dexter?
unbelievably,
Did you see the difference between Dexter though? Group stage to playoff?
yeah. I think,
Wow.
it's a huge difference, But Dexter's such a weird player to spectate because no, but
I
when
knew
you
this was
remind me
coming.
of this, he's such a weird player because he can be in these positions where it just looks like he's dead,
You
and he
mean like
gets
where
like
he
a
should have instantly
3K.
traded, right? Where he's like
Yeah,
he's
but
in positions where you can't get out of with an AWP, If you had a
yeah,
rifle, I can say yes, this is a good position. But when he's there with an
it's
AWP, it's like you should die.
it's almost like you should never be standing here as an
Yeah.
AWPer, and he is there, and he does work with it. He's good in these like awkward moments, and then you just sometimes I see him like moving his mouse, and it looks like he doesn't have the control, and then just flicks. He just flicks people in such an insane way, and he's such a give and take player
Mhm.
because he does make a lot of mistakes, but
Yeah.
he does, kind of he brings more than what he takes away, if that makes sense.
Well,
Even if he makes these positionally weird plays, he does bring a lot of impact from those positions.
but I like what you're saying there because yes, some of the plays look really stupid. That's just
Yeah,
the obvious way of doing it. But he's got his style that works for him. The only problem is if the team is trading correctly, he's kind of fucked and exposed in many situations, which will obviously hinder him in the long run. But did you hear what he said to me on the winners interview when they won their first stage game? He had
no, I
tears in
didn't.
his eyes. He was crying, bro. And he was like, I need to stop, otherwise I'm going to cry. He's never had a crowd cheer his name. If you think he's Russian, so not going to get as many cheers. And this is
Yeah,
the first crowd that was on their side. Obviously, there was more crowd chanting Nico than wanting to be Falcons, but they were on the Falcons side. Nico brings that level of stardom. But then on top of that, like Dexter has been in so many teams where like OG never did anything. It was a like he went from Spirit to OG and he could just pop off every now and again. And they made playoffs like twice in his whole time there. They were
yeah,
like, it was not good. So this is like the first time he's getting some more good experience with him. And he said to me that he sits next to Nico, by the way. And you see Nico's hyping him up when he's doing crazy plays. You notice how Nico also sat next to Manasi as well when he was on G2. And I think there's a reason for this because Dexter said, I went to Nico and he said, like, I'm paraphrasing, so this is not exactly correct wording, but he said, like, I admire you as a player and I want to learn from you. Like, mentor me, teach me.
yeah.
Bro, that's huge because if Nico's got someone he can mold a bit as well who wants to learn, that's only going to help Nico as well, you know?
No, I think that's great, and you obviously have the Danish pairing on the other side, with Kickstand in the middle. I think that's just it's probably the best way you could set at least the
Yeah.
positioning up.
Shout out to Kickstand one
But
time. Jesus Christ. I don't know what he ended rating wise. Let me just check this. But as an in-game leader, Kickstand 0.90, not terrible. But there was a games he had. I'm just gonna look at his matches. There were some games he had. On a Mal's game, on Mirage, he had a 1.11 rating. Against FaZe, he had a 162 rating, bro. On Ancient. He was
yeah,
doing Nico numbers.
let's just go through their games a little bit quickly. Why it's
Yep.
so impressive, I think, if you just look at the Swiss play, right? They
Hmm.
beat Mouse. They beat
Yes.
Astralis. They
Yep.
lost 2-1 to Pain and beat FlyQuest as well, right?
Payne's a hard team
That's
to play
already,
against.
yeah. I mean, this is a pretty hard set of games
Yeah.
for Falcons to start the tournament with, considering what they could have ended up with. So they basically played the third place team, the first place team, in the qualifying matches.
And also, they
And
played Eternal Fire, who they played twice already this year and lost to, both times 2-0, and beat them on a stage.
so essentially, they beat Astralis, they beat
Hmm.
Mouse, they beat
Hmm.
Eternal Fire, they beat FaZe, they beat the winner of the tournament. Now they lost in the finals, uh, but that's a really good run.
Yeah.
Like that's a really really good run.
For a team that
Uh,
people underrate continuously, because obviously it's a Saudi owned team. Like, I don't give a fuck if they're owned by Saudis. I'm just looking at the players. And right now, these players are looking good together.
Yeah, and I mean, I was looking at the finals. I think they could have won the finals even because there's so many moments, especially I think on Ancient and Nuke,
Mm.
where I feel like Mouse got kind of free rounds in a way based on like small sets of like miscommunication
Yeah.
that they're not holding gaps well enough. Where we look at Nuke, I think it was. I can't
Inside,
remember, but
A site was weak for
yeah,
their nuke, bro.
they just walked in main and just killed two players when they were rotating down vent or something like that. There was a lot of these like gaps that were missing, and I remember on Ancient they just walked up B ramp just as they were like interchanging positions, where one guy went into cave and the other guy was supposed to take ramp, and they just walk past the angle where it's like a 1.5 second mark
Yeah.
where Mouse just get a free round up that B side, get a double kill from it. And these are like small things. And also that like 2v5 they lost on Ancient, where they
Oh,
got
that was,
three
yeah.
entries, they lose Tessus and Cave, and then they just like they molly off Cave, they strafe over the molly, kill Dexter, who's long, and they just kind of make this whole round just like it's so bad, but it's still not. It's still like a small adjustment in the round just makes it
Fixable.
good. Like maybe Dexter just moves back a little bit earlier to long and jiggles it, and all of a sudden the round is theirs.
Yeah.
It's such a small thing that just kind of snowballs the entire round, and then you just look at this, and all of a sudden they could have won that final.
Yeah.
So I think there's huge, positives for Falcons, but I also think there's easy fixes for them making it even better. So just small things, and they could have won that final. And I think they had a great run of the tournament, and I think they will take this because we mentioned this even in the earlier episode that this could be the platform for them to kind of gain some confidence
Yeah.
and going into this tier 1.0 tournament, um, and kind of have a great start with this behind them.
Hmm.
So I think it's great to kind of negate the negativity surrounding them in some sense. So well played, Falcons. I was really impressed with them. And the third team for me was Mousesports.
Yes.
I did not have that high hopes for them. They had a little bit of a shaky group stage.
Yeah. What were they,
They
two
lost,
zero, and then they dropped the face and Falcons.
yeah, and then they had a
Oh,
close game against, well,
VP.
semi-close against VP. They won it pretty cleanly on the last one. Uh, but even here, I think this is such a weird tournament win if you look at it, but also one that feels great if you're a player.
Hmm.
If you look at the playoff, I think Payne could have won them against Mouse. I think they screwed that up immensely. I think it was Mirage
It
especially.
was 13-11 both times, right? And some people
Yeah,
said that like the scoreline was closer than what it shows. I will say though that like David Deas didn't deliver the same way as what we'd seen from him. Like, that's gonna hurt him. Snow was still very hype. He had some moments, but it's again for Payne. Remember, this was their first ever playoff run. This was their first time on a stage, and it's not the biggest of stages, but it's still a big arena. It's still a lot of people in there. It was
Yeah.
hard for them to do this, man. This was, but even like if you watch on the intro when they came to me on the stage, they all came really far forward, like huddled around me, and I'm like, guys, no, line up here, like line this way.
Look at the tape. Look at the tape.
Yeah, you stand on these marks, boys.
So I actually think Pink could probably have won that against Mouse. They just barely scraped through.
Yeah,
I was still impressed with Mouse because my original thought was that they wouldn't be winning this tournament. I
no,
probably thought they would maybe make playoff, but not more than that.
I don't know who thought
Uh,
they would have been winning it, but like if you called that, fair play, because that was a wild one.
and you look at them against Mouse Astralis again.
Hmm.
I think Astralis probably should have won that,
Bro, it
considering
could have been 2-0. They
they
threw that
yeah.
fucking Inferno, man.
But there's still something impressive with, if we look at it from Mouse's side, they were 12-4 down, grinding
Yep.
their way back. That takes resilience. I mean, it's the reason they won this tournament. It's the way that they could keep, their focus and mentality to keep grinding, finding solutions and winning rounds and kind of just keep going, no matter what. Uh, I think there's impressive stuff for Brollan in terms of IGLing. I think there's still things that you can see are kind of weaknesses, or maybe the switch ups aren't exactly there yet
But they're
as
supposed
an
to have
in-game
like
reader.
help, right? It's Torji and Zershan that have been said as the people helping him out a bit more with the voice of that and taking on extra responsibilities within the team to make it easier for him. So that's obviously very important.
I think that it's one of those things where it can also be. I think it's helpful, especially in the beginning, but it
Hmm.
can also be a hindrance in the future where, let's say, Brolan takes a bigger step up and wants more responsibility, and all of a sudden you're in a tight situation. You have three voices and you don't really know who to listen to. It
Yeah.
can like make things chaotic
Too
in
many
game.
cooks
But
in the kitchen.
yeah, exactly. But I think it's still really impressive from Mouse, considering I thought Astralis played great. Going into the final, I think they had the balls to win this game. They took gambles. They
Bro,
found gaps.
winning Dust 2 off that great CT side. By the way, that's another thing. The CT sides carried them a bit. Like the CT
Yeah,
side positions and just how good they were at holding what they were supposed to. That obviously stays a lot from the old way. And Spinks is just an upgrade in firepower. So that naturally will make things better. Because when
yeah.
Brolan was just playing CT side, I need to look at his CT side rating actually. But I just remember many moments of Brolan looking very good. CT side. Let me check. CT
But
side.
even on the T side, there were shows of leadership from him, because I remember he would just be like, "Okay, they lost a round. They needed a round on T side." He just went straight out mid, like balls, straight, showing his balls and just getting a kill, opening the round out, choking, the rotation out with utility, and they could just split that B side super easily. So I think they've kind of gotten a really good balance
Hmm.
with Spinks, because I think why their CT sides are so strong is because they have like Spinks and Jimmy as like really, really solid kind of anchor players, where and Brolan and Sershan being more of that kind of aggressive pack,
Yep.
where they're trying to find entries and do this kind of unexpected things. Could look at like Surgeon on Ancients, constantly out middle on T side, making it painful for the opposition. So I think their balance seems a little bit better, because Spinks is such a stable player. He gets 3Ks, 4Ks all the time when he's anchoring, and I thought it's super impressive to see him like just slot in, and it just made sense. So I think they're gonna definitely, have some growing pains moving forward. But this, I mean, the best possible science you could have is going to a tournament with your new lineup and
Yeah.
delivering this kind of way.
But there's
There's
something.
obviously
There's
there is things that
yeah.
like they haven't been tested on. So one of those things is gonna be like, how are other teams gonna prepare for you? Because I
Mhm.
think if we just paint the picture, every player has patterns. Every IGL has calling patterns.
Yep.
I'll even reference you to a thing that back in the days when Pronax was still in Fnatic and we're Fnatic and we're meeting NIP in a grand final of a major, right? One of the things that made us win that game was that we could essentially find a pattern of calling that they did. So on Dust 2, which was not our best map, they would
Yep.
always beat us on it. We found out that essentially every time they lost entry, they would be split on Dust 2.
Try and go for the
So
harder
we
side for
won
you to
like,
retake.
so we would essentially set our CT rounds up that we would go full aggression until we got an entry and just block B splits.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a very old example. These are things that probably are a bit more ironed out in today's Counter Strike, but it's still something that's used. You can see
Yeah, you can see what
patterns
they're doing.
of calling,
It's how they
and when it
react, right?
happens, yeah. So maybe it's just a comfort call for Brolan to execute B on Inferno when he doesn't know what to do, right? Or
But
they
you're
don't get an
saying that,
info or any space. And these are things that people can prepare, gather knowledge on you, and just make a game plan out of.
but even though
And
you're
these are
saying
things
that
that
though,
he's
right?
not tested on yet.
Yeah, but so you're saying he's not tested on this yet, but do you not also think that a lot of his way of calling or what they have is probably still a lot of the old Shuhei style and the defaults they had
Yes.
set up there? And so for me,
So
the real
that's
test
another
is going to,
problem.
my real test for them is going to come in the next 2 or 3 events where they've had to work on so much new stuff. It's not came from Shuhei and Cyclone together. It's now the Brolan and Cyclone show. And then let's see how well adjusted they can be then, you know?
Yeah, I think that this is going to be the real test for him, because I think they've obviously set up a system right now which gives him the biggest support. They probably have like in some teams they like to do it like, okay, the first 6 rounds we're going to do this, and they just have like kind of a float map of like, okay, we lose this round, we do that round, we win this round, we do that round.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a flow chart of what round to pick or what round to do. And a lot of teams do that in terms of their prep, right? So when this kind of becomes less and less, and he has to be more of the authority and people read, and when people start reading their tactics and figure out their tactics, just have meta changes, because maybe everyone just realizes that this is why they win rounds,
Yeah.
and they block that, they have to find something else, right? And that's where problems will start with being a new in-game leader, where you have to kind of find solutions, or maybe you realize mid-game, okay, they know everything. What are we going to do? So I think maybe hasn't really been tested in that sense, and
It'll take
that's
time.
a lot of the like out of server work
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna be tough,
More to
especially
come.
not being an in-game leader before. So there's a lot to kind of digest and see if they can keep hold of this form going forward. But still, incredibly impressive, both for Brolan, Spinks, and Mousesports as a whole, because, I mean, I did not expect them to win this tournament.
No, definitely not. It wasn't the team I thought was going to have a chance doing it. I did have FaZe coming in there. And I want to go on to teams that disappointed next. And for me, at least, I don't know if you'll agree. I will say that FaZe was a disappointment. I will
Yeah.
say that, like, they made 4th place, but let's come on to this. You lose against Falcons. I'm not saying that's the end of the world, but like Carrigan was so sad at that loser interview we did because he put a lot on it, like his calling, you know. And obviously, this is a very different looking phase in positions, in roles, in how things are working, what is expected of a liege. But then Cadian says, whoever wants this 3rd place aside or more, whoever it means more to, will win this game. Well, Jesus Christ, FaZe, that was not what I was expecting. For all the positives we said about Astralis, this was a lot of negatives. You just about won that Mirage in a 28-24 game. Yeah. Basically, two full maps of Counter-Strike in Mirage. More than
And they
2 full
did
maps,
play
sorry. 4
Saw
maps.
twice this tournament, once in group stage and
Yep.
once in playoff. So 50% of their wins is against Saw this tournament.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And like, Elise played good in that exit game against Astralis, but like Frozen was the carry the whole tournament long. Rain still, I think, is pretty solid. Brokey all tournament long wasn't the Brokey I wanted to see. I don't know. Might just take some time, I guess. He has these up and down moments, man. He can go missing for a few months and then come back into it. I'm not going to say I'm worried about Brokey, but I was just worried in the way they lost two of their ancients. Because ancient, like for me, when I looked at how let's just look at the Astralis game. I expected them to be able to win it out on Ancient. I didn't think Astralis would have had a chance. And you get a 6-6 T side against them, and then your CT side, it falls apart again. Both times they have problems on their CT side. It's rough, man.
Yeah, it's hard to it's hard to say exactly what's missing because I mean they're still fourth in a tier two tournament, but their path there
Not
was
tier
not
two,
that
tier
impressive.
1.5. Get it correct, boy. We just said
Yeah,
this.
okay, yeah, but like you know, it's it's not it's they beat Eternal Fire. Yes, they beat Mouse in the group stage.
Yeah.
That's that's some good games. But just winning these two games is not enough for me to be like super excited about them. Um, I do think they have the players that they can grow with this like five players and do really really well.
Hmm.
It's just it's a weird thing because it's kind of like you go into you have such high expectations of FaZe that
Yeah.
they're going to finals, 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 you know,
Especially
all the
here, though.
time.
Especially here.
Yeah. So you put them on this plateau because that's what they've been in the past, and it's it's not looking the same. You know,
No.
I know they are supposed to be a lot better in these kind of playoff games, but this tournament around, I kind of think they were better in the group stages than playoffs, which is not the phase you're normally used to seeing.
Exactly. And they never go 3-0 through groups and stuff like that, right? They always have problems in groups and then come alive on the arena. That's been the narrative we've said forever. And
Yeah.
guess what? Didn't work out this time.
So still a lot of question marks about FaZe, but I still think there's it's just it feels like if I put the name compared to the individual performance, it does not match up for all the players.
Yeah.
I
So it's
think
still
that they
disappointing for you, though, right?
yes, it's still
Yeah.
disappointing because you expect more. And I think obviously you have to give them a little bit of time with a lot of like positional changes, how they've played. Uh, but I feel like they should be a little bit individually sharper, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, so hopefully they can bounce back, especially now with they're skipping EPL, and hopefully they can get some practice in, get themselves, you know, ready for what's coming. Because I don't know how long EPL is, but it's quite a long tournament.
Couple of weeks.
Yeah. So hopefully that will give them probably talk a little bit more about that coming up in this episode. But hopefully that will give them time they need to kind of get back into it.
Other disappointing teams, I don't want to touch too much on it. Complexity still disappointing. MRB obviously made a change straight away after this. Not a big surprise. Drops out, not going to be IGL anymore. So like the new MIBR is not the one we saw at Cluj. They bring BRN guy again, blah, 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 however you say his name. He's back.
Yeah.
Um, I still think Insana just needs to go somewhere else. Poor guy. He's so good. Get him on Pain or Furia, please. That's his best hope, really. I expected a bit more from FlyQuest. I didn't expect them to be in last place. Wildcard, we were both quite positive about, right? And all the time they've been spending in Europe, this new boot camp facility they've got there. And
Yeah.
they still, let me look at their games. I can't remember all their games, I'll be honest.
The
They
the thing is, I'm not even that disappointed in them because they had some tough opposition. They had a really close game against Mongols. They had a semi-close game against Big. Um, if you look at
they crumble in the
it's
crunch moments, though. They can be up in games and
yeah,
then crumble.
so it's one of those things, you know. we don't expect them to make deep tournament runs or anything like that. So we're gonna judge them on a different merit than an example of FaZe or Astralis, right?
Hmm.
Because they're an up and coming team. They have a lot of new guns with Stanislaw at the helm. So I think it's a
Is
good learning experience, but at some point they gotta clinch these close games out because it's. I feel like every game I watch them, it's like a
yeah,
13-11, 13-10 loss every
and
single time.
and they can be ahead in games, man. They can be
Yeah.
nicely ahead in games, and it slips away. It's
So I still
rough.
have some hope for them. I don't consider it disappointing tournament for them, but
Okay.
it would have been. I think they got a little bit unlucky with the draw, just a little bit, because they got Mongols, Virtus.pro, and Big, which they lost to, which they had a chance in all three games. So I guess if you just purely look on the results and say they went 1-3, yeah, that's probably disappointing.
I know people are very openly disappointed with Virtus Pro. I don't feel disappointed for them because they beat Complexity Wildcard. They probably should have beaten 3D Max, but 3D Max can be solid at times. They lost to Pain. No surprise there. They struggled against Pain. They even did so at Katowice. They got so unlucky that they had to play Mouse for that last game on the final day, man. If it was any other
Yeah.
team from that group, like realistically, Saw should have not gone through. If we wanted to look at like how things should have worked out, it should have been like Mouse or VP playing Saw,
Yeah.
then someone else
That's
playing
probably
3D
right.
Max. So I don't think there was too many other disappointments. I will start to say though, Mongols are getting more stage experience, but they are disappointing me that they're not getting this far. And the same for Eternal Fire. Both Eternal Fire and Mongols for me right now are great group stage teams, can make playoffs. Like I'm in my mind, any event they enter into, they can make playoffs. But I expect them to be going further than just exiting the quarters soon.
Yeah, I thought this was like a great event for them to actually make a finals and
Yeah.
or potentially winning the tournament. It was perfectly set up for them, uh, but Astralis stopped them in the tracks. Something that for me was a little bit unexpected, but at the same time, if you look at that experience, it's probably down to that at this point. And hopefully, they'll fix, because I think at the end of the day, it's not the worst thing in the world to lose this and get that into their minds that, just play your game. But it felt like they were a little bit stressed when they were playing Astralis and Astralis punished them for it.
Yeah.
Um, Unfortunate for them, but yeah, I agree that they were a disappointment because I thought they would actually be in the finals.
When did Cluj start, by the way?
Uh, it said February 14th here.
Okay. So let's go to February 13th right now on the global ranking for VRS. So you guys can see this. Navi were fourth, Mongols third, Vitality second, Spirit first, G2 5, FaZe 6, Eternal Fire 7, Falcons 8, Mals 9, Liquid 10. Now, if you
Yeah,
go to today, Valve Global Rankings, February the 26th, Navi were fourth. They're now ninth by skipping this event. That's how
yeah,
many teams went above them.
and a big talking point. I mean, that's actually insane. It's 5 teams, right? Yeah,
Yeah, so Mals, FaZe, and Falcons and Eternal Fire went above them. And Astralis now
and
have
you
the
look
10th
at
place.
the big conversation prior to this event was Liquid skipping it, right?
Yeah, where's Liquid actually? Jesus Christ, I didn't look. Liquid's, but Liquid's fine because they're in the Americas region, right? So if you go look at Liquid, it's like not the end of the world because they're in Americas. They're still
Yeah,
number 2 in Americas, only paying above them. Fury, MIBR, only wildcard was that complex. Like they're not in a worrying position. But for the European teams, like if Navi have a terrible out of nowhere EPL, which I don't expect, they're already making it through to stage 2 because of how the new EPL systems. We'll talk about this later, by the way, at the end of the podcast. We're touching on EPL. But it's just coming back to this VRS things. Yes, you want to skip it because PGL won't give you your revenue share, your club share, whatever it's going to be. But this is a problem. This is a big
it could be
problem.
a problem for a lot of teams. And you
I'm
see how close it is. I mean, points wise, I mean, anyone could essentially fluctuate quite heavily
Navi's
in
8th
this
in
spots.
EU. Navi's 8th in EU.
Yeah, but you could even see like a Spirit dropping down to that kind of margins if they have a terrible EPL.
Yeah,
I
basically,
think
yeah.
it's
I think they should be fine, you know. But I mean, if
because it's
you're,
not as much decaying points for them, I
yeah,
guess.
where Navi's now like from the major doing okay at Blast, then not doing okay at Caddo, I guess, and then skipping this becomes a problem. If they also skip PGL Bucharest, like, and remember, these teams are
So
not
let's see
accepting these
here.
invites in advance, yeah? So they don't know how well they're going to do at EPL. But if you don't do well, and then you need to go Bucharest, well, the invite's already sent. You already declined your invite. So what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, and if we look at some of these teams here, just to like get some point difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Astralis gained a little bit less, like let's say 280 points, 270 points to go from 15th to 10th.
Yeah.
Like almost a 300 point difference in Valve points. And you look at everyone in, like, that's a lot of people who can fluctuate quite heavily.
Yeah. Especially just from skipping one event or attending one event. What it can
Yeah,
mean for you.
because I mean, Astralis can go from 10th to first place essentially in one tournament now.
But they'd have to win against some very good teams as well, right?
Yeah, that's true, but it's
So
still a
so
possibility.
the thing is, right? So say Astralis don't do well at EPL, but then they're going to go to PGL Bucharest because they need extra points, and there's less of the big teams there. They can still gain a good amount of points to then put themselves in top 5. That's
Yeah.
definitely possible. The same as like what Falcons have done now. Because Falcons were 8th with 1,500 points, and now they're 1,800 points. They're getting 300 points, like you said. That's a huge win for them. So there's
There's
a lot
also
in this, man.
this. I'm trying to think here because even if you lose, do you lose? You lose less points if there's better teams involved in the tournament, right?
Well, not it's based on the team you face, right? So if
Yeah,
you face a team that's close in rank to you and you lose, you don't lose as many points. But say
yeah,
Astralis, they beat a lot of teams who were way ahead of them in the points, then they gain a lot more. Like that Mongols win because Mongols is third was massive. They got
yeah,
like 100 points for that game, I think, maybe 97 or something.
yeah.
And
That's
that
crazy.
makes a big difference here. But obviously, with lots of teams do skip, and this is why, by the way, this whole fucking organization is coming together and saying, let's skip the event. That's why they're doing it as well. If they all skip it together, then the other teams don't get as many points. Because Astralis needed points so badly, remember on the 13th, Astralis was in 15th position, which means you're not automatically into the major, then they had to go. Yeah? Astralis had to
Yeah, but
go, and
by the
they
way,
were not saying no.
absolute mad like scenario we are discussing that is even a point of discussion that teams are like colluding to.
Organizations don't say teams because we're not putting the players
Yeah,
under
okay,
fire.
yeah,
The players have
but
no choice, ladies and gentlemen. Just to make this clear for everyone, the
yeah,
players are being held hostage by the organizations that pay them the money because the organizations don't have an understanding of how to generate revenue, right? They're paying these big salaries. Now, I think I said something similar last time. I'm not against all the organizations, but you agreed to pay these players this salary. This was the market salary. You decided to do this. Okay. Now you need revenue share because you're not selling enough t-shirts or the sponsorships are not generating enough to make sure it's like all working out. So you need this revenue share that you relied on from ESL, from Blast over the last few years. Now it's gone. You're like, oh shit, the money's not there. So luckily, Blast is doing their own thing. Blast probably do the most fair, which is tokens, which is anyone they invite, not about minimum events or anything like that, right? They get a token and there's some benefits for it. But the ESL club share is fair to everyone that goes into it, but organizations have come together outside of ESL. It's not to do with ESL or Blast, but organizations, the teams, organizations have come together and said, we're not going here unless they give us money. Like we want an appearance fee, basically.
which is absolute
You
insanity in
don't
my
need a
opinion.
fucking
But
appearance fee because guess what? You need the points. And I
and
like,
by the way, all of those appearance fees would be taken out from the players' prize money essentially.
well, it's already split, right? So we can see it when we come to ESL Pro League, which we'll discuss later. The club share is one thing, and then the prize money is one thing, and that prize money is now a lot lower, even though it's $1 million event. Like the prize money's terrible for even coming first place.
For a pretty long event as well.
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
is supposed to be like the most premier league of Counter-Strike.
It's the only league we have now, right?
Yes, it's kind of insane actually.
But what so this will actually take us nicely. We can segue away from it. Cluj is done. I thought it was an epic event. This was really good to watch. It gave us a lot of epic moments, and Romania is an awesome crowd, awesome country. Much love to
Just
it.
one last point on it. I thought it was
Okay.
a little bit more of an exciting tournament to watch because
We didn't
it
know what was going to
wasn't
happen
just
so
a
easily.
regular
Yeah.
it wasn't just a regular squad of teams, right? So I
Yeah.
actually thought it was a little bit more interesting to watch than if all the top teams would have been there.
Now we're going to go to get into, did Valve screw up with some of the VRS things? Yes, they did, but we've said this on this podcast since the beginning. The VRS won't be perfect. It'll be adjusted. Now, one thing we saw as a problem in Katowice is that some teams were still in the tournament, and so they didn't get the points for the prize money they had earned because they had not earned it just yet, right? So
Yeah,
that
and
could,
why that's relevant is because invites are sent out on a specific date, right?
yes. And this can be exploited, which is like potential for exploitation. By the way, there's a detailed critique by a GitHub user. His name is Terrificy, real name Jacob, and he highlighted the flaws in the system, which a lot of people are looking at as well. But this guy is up on his knowledge. So shout out to you, Mr. Terrificy, because we need people like you that care this much and look at all of it. Because bloody hell, I can't get my mind around it sometimes. But the controversy could be that with how the prize money was awarded and reflected in the VRS rankings, teams eliminated from a tournament receive their prize money immediately, which is then factored into the VRS score. Teams who have not been eliminated, yeah, it's not
Yeah.
factored in. But then there's that cut-off date, a hard date. Now, this is something where Gamer Legion got screwed by this, yeah, because it was a date before. They were done pretty well. They made it to playoffs. Well, no, they made it one game away from playoffs, right? Let me try to remember. Where did Game Legion do it? I'm trying to really cast my mind back.
Well, either way, someone got knocked out of the tournament when they moved another day ahead.
Yeah.
And essentially, the team that got knocked out got points, and they didn't receive their points before the cutoff date of
Oh,
invites.
that's it. So they lost to Spirit in the end, but they had beaten just the Sharks, which would have been good for them. So they didn't make it to playoffs. I was wrong there about Game Legion. They made 7th, 8th, but 7th, 8th for Katowice is good. But because of that date didn't go in their favor, it works out pretty badly for it. Hardware. I don't
I'm
know. I don't
muting
know.
my mic in the meantime.
They're all going to be muted while I go through it. We're going to bring up the Game Legion statement. It says, Dear Counter-Strike community, we have identified what appears to be a calculation discrepancy in the February Valve ranking update, specifically involving prize pool calculations and minimum prize pool guarantees for teams still in the competition, intended to balance out prize pools for teams that have already been eliminated. This issue has significantly impacted our standing and eligibility. I don't know. English is not my first language. Lie. It actually is. I just can't fucking talk. For recent invites, as we missed the top 12 placement in the global VRS that we believe we rightfully deserved. As a team committed to performance excellence and sporting fairness, we have reached out to Valve and believe it's crucial to clarify the situation. Moreover, this could similarly affect other teams in the future, making it more important for Valve to address it promptly. Our intention is not to undermine any team. Rather, we seek transparency and consistency in order to preserve the spirit of fair competition. We fully respect all verdicts and trust that Valve will address this matter appropriately. We appreciate the continued support from fans, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that bit we don't really care about. Now,
Yeah.
they did then see, right, that an open letter came to Valve as well, because there were teams on the lower level, NIP, Metasport, Endpoint, RIP Endpoint, Jano, Ents, Mouse, Big, Havu, Eyeballers, Imperial, Falcons, OG, 3D Max, Night. Like, these are not the very elite teams, but they all signed a letter. And kind of, they had concerns about a level playing field, that the current system undermines this goal. flows in the Valve ranking system, regional standings system, risk destabilization teams and competitive ecosystems. So that's like them not getting, enough opportunity. Open
I
qualifiers.
think it. I was, watching like Snappy talking a little about this on HLTV, right?
Okay, I didn't see
And
this
and
one.
and and he was essentially talking a little bit about getting some clarification on what qualifiers, what tournaments are actually part of VRS, because there's like you
Some
have to
were
have
some were originally
10
VRS and then taken
VRS.
out, right?
Yeah, but it could also be like there's not enough games that are calculated into the VRS system for them to get a
Yes.
ranking, uh, which is why it's taking them so long. So let's say they would play like 2 games of a qualifier,
Yeah.
uh, and then lose. They only played 2 VRS games, then they're out, and then they have to wait for so long and play so many different qualifiers to essentially get ranked, which was a huge deal for them, And they just wanted clarifications because some tournaments, you have open qualifiers or something, and the last couple of games are actually, on HLTV, like round of 16, like top 16 rounds, but the other games aren't at all. So there was like a bit of a mess what is calculated into it and not. And there was at one point they joined a VRS accepted like tournament, which got their VRS thing revoked.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of skipped that event because they didn't have VRS activated or something or accepted.
Yep.
And then they got it back and then they already
They'd
left the
left.
tournament.
Yeah.
So, oh, sorry. Well, you're gonna have to
That's
speak
fine.
a little bit right now.
Because the other thing, right, is that a lot of the data the Valve takes for VRS only comes from HLTV. And that is obviously a big problem because some games HLTV don't have the manpower to do. They've spoken about this on HLTV confirmed openly. They can't list every qualifier from like round of 100, whatever it is, it's not possible for them. So we're in a situation where Valve and HLTV are having to sort all this data out, give it to Valve, and that's a huge impact on the VRS system. Now, luckily, HLTV is not really biased in one way, like it just does it that way. But what these organizations want is like it says urgent appeal, short term fix, reintroduce open qualifiers for the majors to preserve competitive integrity in careers. Warning, the delays in addressing these issues could lead to organizational collapse for many teams and organizations, which makes sense. Now, Valve did respond not too long ago. Let me just check the date on this one. This was on 2 days ago, so 24th. And this week, Valve released a patch to try and fix the problem. In the updated VRS model, forfeits are counted as losses. Events only processed into the rankings once they are over, and a team will get their VRS rankings after 5 played matches instead of 10. Also, now included into the model is club share earnings. So the club share earnings will also factor in. It's not going to be seen as like club share only goes to the organization, so that's not included. I'm actually a
Yeah.
fan of
And
that. I
there's
don't
also
mind that.
one other thing was that if someone forfeits a game, that is counted as a loss into the system instead of
Yes,
not being counted at all before.
which is good
So
though.
you could essentially like, oh, we don't want to lose against these guys, and they might win. We're gonna forfeit this
Yeah,
match.
and then
You
doesn't
know?
count as anything. Now you lose anyway, so you
Yeah,
best play the game. But
yeah,
I what I really like here, right, is it's not a immediate knee jerk reaction fix to everything. It does mean that Bucharest, for example, PGL Bucharest, will like from what I'm reading here, it says events only processed into the rankings once they are over, and a team will get their VRS ranking after 5 played matches. So events only processed into the rankings once they are over. Does that mean that Bucharest, which has the major cutoff date in the middle of it, won't count at all for anyone's points?
that I think that's what it means.
So
But it
that
also
means the
means
last event is EPL. Oh
Yeah,
no,
and
Blast Lisbon. Blast Lisbon. I'll tell a lie. Blast Lisbon will
but
be the first big
EPL,
event.
either case, like EPL. So one thing that's a little bit messy with this is, okay, let's say EPL, it goes on for like 2 weeks, right?
So EPL starts in the first stage where it's the first 16 teams from the 1st of March and it'll end on the 16th. So it's just over 2 weeks.
Okay, but let's say you have a game that's on the 1st. You don't get your points until after the 16th,
Well,
right?
no, because one event, if they're using HLTV data, the first event would be the 1st of March until the 5th of March.
Okay,
Because
so
that's
you're
the
splitting the
play-in.
event into
Yes.
two.
That's what they've done. They have the play-in and then they have the main event.
Okay, but does the play-in? So the play-in, you actually
But the
get a
play-in has
lot
no
less
money.
points
It only has money
than
for the 9th to 11th teams. Yeah. And
So
then
the
they,
problem with that is obviously that
well,
it doesn't
wait,
even count.
because the top 8 then go through to the next stage. They'll be playing against bigger teams. And the minimum money you get there is 8,500. So a
Yeah,
bit more than
but
any of the teams you beat already.
but the weight of those wins would be like significantly lower since all the
Yeah, look
money
all.
is put into this other
Yes,
events that they split in
exactly.
two, right?
And
Which is also
also,
like kind of a problem.
but it's a lot lesser teams as well. So even the wins you're getting here, like for
Yeah,
example, if any of these teams, maybe like a Tyloo or a Lin Vision, beat an Eternal Fire or a Pain, bro, their pointing is gonna go crazy. There's some matches
yeah,
already for this. Let's have a look at this. So let's look. Tyloo could face free. No, they do. They face 3D Max. Yeah,
yeah.
it's not giving us the VRS point. Ah, I thought on HLTV they're giving you the VRS points now. It's not doing it.
They should, but
Needs to be closer.
I'm not sure because is this just counted as like a qualify? Is this counted towards VRS? That's my question.
Oh, you mean it could be not counted at all? No, it has to be counted.
Well, I honestly I have no clue about that. Because what I'm saying is like, what would it be counted as then? Because you have like this different system for tier 2, 3 events
Okay,
and
let's
tier
look
1
at this.
events.
Oh, actually, even here, I'm looking at Fnatic versus BC Game now, which is a rank 38 versus rank 30 team. There's none of the VRS thing on here either. So maybe they've taken it off all games. It could just be where we're
Or
looking at right now.
maybe they just do it for the big events. Could be that. They just try to clarify it for the big events and not all games. But
They probably
either
will add it for
way,
playing, I'm sure.
it's kind of a weird thing because I think one of the things that with the open letter and everything,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of want clarity on what is the route forward. Let's say you're a new organization, you want to gamble and put money into, well, not
It's
gamble,
rough
but
right
you want to
now.
invest into a team in Counter-Strike. You kind of want to have a clear path of, okay, we're going to have to do well during this time of the year. So we have this amount of time to get this team ready to perform at this tournament to, you know, kind of climb to the top, right?
Yep.
This made a lot of sense to everyone in the past, where you see the routes pretty clearly, what we need to do and when,
Yeah.
uh, to make sure that this investment is worth it. Right now, I think it's
It's too big a risk.
kind of a
New orgs wouldn't
mess.
bother doing it, man.
Yeah, which is a huge problem. I mean, the big thing about Counter Strike, why it's surviving and why it has been so healthy is there's been a clear path,
Yep.
at least timeline wise of what you are investing towards, and now
Well,
it
even look at
feels a
B&E. You
little
could live off
bit.
the majors, right, without being part of the partner leagues, as long as you still qualified every time and you were good enough at that moment. I know it
Yeah,
wasn't perfect when you're obviously scrambling all the time. You can't play all the ESL events, but we keep saying this, right? This small adjustment of how Valve responded is good. It's a step in the
it's a
right direction,
great,
but it's
but
going to
there's
take
still.
about 10 more of these before we get to where we want to be.
Yeah,
And also, HLTV being the main data source for all this stuff, Valve even need to give them some money to put more people into charge and on staff to cover more of the qualifiers. Because obviously HLTV never used to put like lower down games on. But obviously where it's all so impactful now, they're gonna either have to or something's gonna have to happen.
yeah. There just needs to be a little bit of a clarification, even further to what this is, to how you progress as a new team, because we need it.
Yeah.
Everyone. That's how we get these new stars, that shine through. In like let's even imagine like Saivu. Everyone knew he was a big star. He was 16 years old. He was playing in like 15, 16 years old. He's playing in the smaller
It's LDLC, right?
like French teams. I feel like maybe I can't
Where
remember
did he start?
exactly
I'm gonna
what
check.
he like triple A or something. I don't know. AAA maybe. But
Yeah,
either
that was
way,
it. You're correct. Yep. Yeah.
yeah. But you would see them, they had like a clear, ranking. Maybe they were like top 50, 60,
Hmm.
or something like that in the world. They were playing tournaments whenever they could. Um, and you get some spotlight on them. But right now, I think it's a little bit of a mess. What's important? And I think it's probably gonna drop like the interest also in tier two, tier three scene in some sense, which is just bad for everyone.
Yeah.
Uh, where we need that grassroots, and how are we gonna, I don't know, finance or make it stable, because they can earn money too. It's not like they need to have big events. Casting games online is still like, a profitable business, but if there's no weight into the tournaments online at all, then where does the interest come from, right? um so I think there needs to be a little bit more updates and clarification, still,
Yeah.
because it it also shouldn't be that you have to study. It's like studying in school for a test to understand the VRS rankings. Like I d- it shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah. Well, I still believe we're maybe 10 plus updates away from getting it sorted, but I still remain very positive on what we've got. I still think
Yeah, I
it's
think
a good sign.
it's moving in the right direction. My only issue is like, is it too slow? Because I think it's just sad if some teams don't get an opportunity to go to the biggest stages, just because we have a little bit
Or a
of
rough system.
we need to wait a year before it's good.
Do you
You know,
still are you still in the mindset that this is better than what we had?
I still think that it's kind of like, okay, VRS to me is kind of like CS2. It has the potential, if done right, to be a lot better than previous versions like CS:GO or HLTV rankings. I don't think it's there yet.
Hmm.
Neither of them, because they need a few updates.
10 updates,
So it
10
has the
minimum.
potential to be one of the best things to ever happen, to the scene, but it's not there. It's not there.
Well, I believe in Valve always because we still have a game that's been running all these years. We've been playing 20 plus years of Counter Strike now, so we will get there. We've actually got a really interesting thing to come on to next. People have asked about majors in the last episode, I believe it was, right? Someone said about like, do we know any of the confirmed dates? Obviously, we touched on Budapest. We actually got an email that basically was Valve emailing the tournament organizers to send in their proposals for 2027 and 2028 majors. Now, this is where the tournament organizers can submit their bids. And the dates are May the 31st to June the 20th for 2027 and November the 22nd to December 12th for 2027 as well. Nice that we'll finish Christmas a bit earlier this time. I like that. 2028 is May 29th to June 18th and November 20th till December 10th. Now, obviously, for people who don't realize, organizers have to do all the regional qualifiers. And it should finish 2 weeks before the major itself. Proposals can cover one or multiple events, and preference is given to organizers with prior successful events. Proposals should be outlined events, features, backup venues, a comprehensive streaming plan focusing on CS2's peak viewership time, which is 4 p.m. CET to 9 p.m. CET. Valve will support the prize money, cover travel and accommodation costs for participants. I don't think that includes talent or anything. Submissions are due March 1st, 2025, with final decisions by June 1st, 2025. That's awesome.
By
That
the way,
is.
I have a question about that.
I worked on one of these proposals,
The
by the way, for
So,
WePlay.
like, preference is given to organizers with prior successful events.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't like
Successful
locked into
majors,
only
I would
count.
say.
Is it only Counter Strike events,
Ooh.
or like is it, for example, like if we look at how PGL came into Counter Strike
Yep.
and did a major, it's because they done major events in Dota, right?
Yeah, but they'd already started their count. Like they were still doing Counter Strike back in 2016 before I did the first major in 2017 for them. I know they did a
Oh,
lot of
okay,
Dota
okay,
stuff, but yeah, I wouldn't. I think this will be previous successful events in Counter Strike, but also
okay.
specifically if they've been successful majors. You know, that's how
Yeah, all right.
That's how I would interpret it.
I interpret it a bit different. I thought would be like, as
Well,
long as you've done like successful events, maybe. I mean, PGL obviously worked with Valve in Dota.
take it this way. I'll give you the WePlay example because that's what I know personally.
Yeah,
WePlay did Dota majors, yeah, and we were always given the opportunity to bid for CS majors. We never won one. Then the war started, so it wasn't possible to bring one to Kiev. But we
yeah,
were working on a proposal for that. I worked on a proposal for that. The interesting part here, by the way, is that like obviously, supposedly 2026 is Cologne is supposed to be a major again. That's the rumors. That's what the dates look blocked out by. But ESL are not getting as many majors as what they used to. PGL have had the most in recent times. Star Ladder supposed to be the Budapest one with the finals on December the 14th this year. Still not announced, by the way. Bloody hell, when are they going to announce that? By the way, this is just speculation. I have no information on this, but I wonder if the fact that Star Ladder got bought out is why this announcement's taking longer. Maybe they have to work something out. You know,
yeah. I mean,
change of
it
hands, change of ownership,
yeah, kind of probably needs to verify some things in some
especially about the
sense.
ownership of like if it's a similar to ESL ownership because. Like
Yeah, and
where did I
also
read
like, is it
this?
sold because it has that contract, or bought because it has that contract? I don't know.
I read something earlier about um I'm trying to see where I
About
read
what?
about it. I read about the majors. Mm, I can't
You're
find it
talking
now.
about the like qualifier stuff.
No, just like when people are making proposals for the majors. So like obviously Blast have got Austin confirmed, it's happening very soon. Budapest major by Star Ladder. Obviously they've changed ownership hands. Supposedly some of the owners for this new thing is also ESL owners. That might make
Yeah.
problems somewhere. Um I wouldn't be surprised if the Saudi group, not as ESL, would try and pitch for a major because obviously they would love to bring a major to Riyadh. Our time zone, I think that might work out. I don't think it's too big a difference from where I am now. So they could make that work. And they've got basically unlimited money and resources if they did want to do it. But obviously they would
Yeah.
be expected to go next level. I'm not sure what Valve would think about that if that was a possibility. It's going to be interesting to see if I personally think surely for 2027 PGL will get another one because if you look at their majors,
I hope so.
Stockholm, Antwerp,
Beating records
Copenhagen,
and records and
yeah,
records.
like every single time was great, you know. And remember, in my understanding, Valve don't want you to do a major that where all the assets, all the things look exactly the same as your normal Counter Strike events. They want you to make it look special. Every time it looks very different from PGL. There's always
Yeah.
tweaks specifically for the major.
They have a way better trophy than Blast.
Bro, Blast have to make a god tier trophy this time. Otherwise, they're going to be ultimately memed for the rest of
It's
their careers.
such a bad trophy. It haunts me when I think about it.
I'm just saying, if I was the player that won that trophy, that's probably I'd be like, fuck, I won this major. Like
You
this is the
you can
major
have this
trophy I
one. I'll
won.
take the next one.
Yeah, fucking hell, man. The cheesy nacho. Oh yeah, that was rough.
Uh,
That was hella rough, man. That was not the one. Um,
that was not the one.
Bro, do you know what? I think we've done China now. We've already gone back to America. So then probably the start of if 2026 is Actually, yeah, we don't know who 2026 second major is. We know Cologne the first one. God knows who the second one is then. Maybe that is a PGL one. But I've not heard anything about it. No one's told me anything about if it's PGL for that.
Would be cool to have one in Australia, honestly.
I don't think as the time zones they'd ever do it.
Ah, yeah. But they did
They're,
one in China.
yeah, how different? I think there's still a big difference in time zones there, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge difference. Like, isn't it like 12 hours? Exact. Isn't like the worst possible?
Yeah, I think it's hugely different. Let me Google now. Okay, time in Melbourne right now, 6 in the morning. Time in Shanghai right now. I love Google. 3 in the morning. So there's still even a 3 hour difference there. So like China wasn't too bad, right? It wasn't great for Europe. It wasn't the peak hours, but obviously remember the difference here is Perfect World are the distributor for Counter-Strike in China. So
Yeah,
they're obviously it needed
made
to happen.
sense.
Yeah, like I don't think Australia's kind of got that pull. Where would you like to see it go?
Like, where in the
2027. Let's
world
let's say two
or
places we'd
who?
like to see it go. Not who, where.
Where? I mean, I'd still, I'd say like an honorable mention Australia. Still, I think that would be cool. Because I just think they have such a goofy crowd. It's always a lot of stuff
A
happening.
goofy crowd. There you go, Aussies. You have
Yeah,
been
but
called
they
a
do
goofy
the like
crowd.
shoeies and everything like that, and they just like, yeah, I feel like they kind of bring the energy in some sense. I've always liked going to Australia for Counter Strike events, even though it's absolutely like disgusting on your mind and body
You
because you
you did
get
Challenger
so
there,
jet
right?
lagged.
You did Challenger.
Yeah,
Oh,
dude, it was
I've
insane.
never been. How fucked were you?
But
How fucked were you when you went
no,
to
but
Australia?
so I remember uh going there and I was so tired, and it's like 8 at night,
Hmm.
and you go to sleep and you wake up and it's like 1 at night and you're fully awake because you'd like it's what you would normally kind of wake up in Europe, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you couldn't fall asleep.
You
I,
just
I would
wrecked.
just like I was sharing room with Synopsy, right? So
Hmm.
just like turn around and I'd see Synopsy up as well, and we were both like, "Fuck,"
Mega
and we were
wrecked.
trying to stay up for as long as possible, trying to get sleep on the airplane, so that we would be able to stay up for as long as. But you just woke up and your body just gets into this panic mode. And I
I'm
remember
glad
we
you're
had to
saying
like
this.
we were sleeping prior to the finals because everyone was just destroyed. So we were like sleeping we went back to the hotel after one game, slept for like as many hours as we could, went to the arena, and we were sleeping on the couches prior to a final. We were wrecked, man. We were absolutely destroyed. But this is the problem when you go to a tournament and you play the next day.
Yeah.
We didn't have any days before where we're like, adjusting to jet
Get
lag. We
ready
just
for
kind
it.
of,
Yeah.
yeah, that was terrible. But obviously, a major wouldn't be like that. You would have time to
Yeah. To get
adjust to
ready.
time zones, to media, whatever.
I've never
But
been, but
I
by the
think I
way,
think
I'm glad you're saying this because you're making it like think of the Aussie players who have to make that trip 6, 7, 8 times a year,
yeah, it's
completely in a
absolutely
loop.
brutal.
Like their minds are just can't handle it. Nothing's going on.
It's almost like you're dreaming while you're awake. Like you feel terrible. And we read up on that
Mm.
about jet lag, and it's like every day your body can adjust 1 hour, I think.
Oh, great. By the way, I'll say this: when I go to
So if it's
America, I
like
never
12
get jet
hours,
lag.
it's 12 days.
America, I never get jet lag. China, I didn't really have it because I was in Singapore first, and even in Singapore, like I kind of, I kind of cheat coded my way through this. I've never had such bad jet lag. I've had jet lag, but never like what you're describing ever.
No,
Not in
but
a
it
million
is
years.
like that. I think it's worse for the Americans to come to Europe than it is.
Yeah, going back
Like
home. By the
it's
way, when we do,
it's like one way is way worse than the other.
yeah, when we go back home. So like when I did Dallas last time, I'd come back home and I'm fucked, man. I'm playing Counter-Strike till 5 in the morning. And I'm actually like cooking. I'm just, let's go. And then I'm like, it throws you in a loop, man. There's no way out of it. There's no way out. Okay, so you think
takes a long while to
Australia?
get back.
I'm trying to think, where would I want to go?
Australia. Otherwise, I mean, it wouldn't
Where else would be
be
cool to
like.
go? World map. Let me go. I'm going to the world map.
We're going world map. I might as well go world map here. World map.
Why does the world map say that Greenland is Denmark? What world map have I found here?
But Greenland is Denmark.
Yeah, but it's not like Greenland's still its own part, but like Denmark owns it, right? If I'm right.
But they're part of Denmark.
Okay. Do you know where would be good? I think would actually be awesome. Is Turkey. Imagine a Turkish major.
Yeah, that wouldn't be.
A Turkish major could be fucking lit, bro. Because I know they're super passionate about Eternal Fire, and I do think like Turkish fans are either really fucking cool or the worst human beings in the world. Because like I predicted pretty much
like a European Brazilian major.
Yeah, but I feel like there's enough good fans where they'll still stay for the arena action if they get it, even if Eternal Fire's not there. But it's like,
be opposed to that.
I think that would be a cool place to go, man. I'd be down for that.
Because I was kind of on the line of thinking, because you kind of want to honor kind of the nationalities of Counter-Strike in some way.
Yeah.
Like
Canada. Bro, Canada would be sick.
Canada, for sure.
Less problems than America for visas, just saying.
Yeah, and hospitality like Swedes.
Huh?
I just think Canadians are very, very similar to Scandinavians.
Really? We need to get Launders on to talk about this with you.
I know, but it's like, so I've been to Canada. It
Have you?
feels
When did you
way
go?
more. I lived there for a little bit.
What is this information I'm hearing? When?
But this was like, when was it? It was 2015, 16, something like that. I was playing in Luminosity.
Oh, what? Because you could have an American visa, they put you in Canada.
Yeah, probably. The owner actually had a house there, a gaming house. So we lived in a gaming house outside Toronto. And just like kind of, walking around restaurants, how people behave, it felt very Scandinavian. Very, very Scandinavian.
So not confrontational, super polite and friendly everywhere. Everyone's really chill.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm down for Canada and Turkey then. Hell yeah.
Let's go.
Next, we got to look at Pro League, man. We touched on it a bit already, but let me bring up the Pro League. So Pro League starts on the 1st of March, just around the corner. We have the play-ins first with 16 teams. 8 teams will qualify into where the other 8 big teams are. We'll start by looking at the play-ins. We can make some predictions on who we think is going to make it through.
Some of these teams I have absolutely no clue about. I'm just going to be honest. House bets, I have no clue.
2 Oceanic teams. By the way, I don't know a single player on house bets. I'm sorry, guys, if you ever watched this. One day maybe we'll know you guys. But like Mind Freak is like Ricky is still there. I think fucking Sponge played with Ricky, right?
I think he played.
Let's have a look. Yeah, he's on the old Renegades lineup from Sponge's time.
Yeah. How old is Ricky?
33.
33, man. He's rocking it.
Legend. Absolute legend. Yeah, he was on the Renegades lineup and he was on Vox Eminor. Oh no, Chad was on Vox Eminor. He was on the Renegades lineup when Chad was just about to retire. Okay, so they had like 1 month together.
So I think I remember this Tux player as well.
Oh no, I think Chad retired. Wait, is it July 1st or is it June 1st? May, June, July. Okay. So Chad retired in June 2016. Ricky came into Renegades July 2016. But I'm sure they'd know each other. I'm sure I've heard Chad mention him before. Tux is there as well. Yeah, I remember Tux. Yeah. Damn. The Chiefs lineup, I remember them on. Yeah. All right, so let's have a look down. There's Tai Lu representing China. Lin Vision, full China team with their new player. Call me Sus or Sui. Call me Sue. I don't know. He was a new player, added him. M80 back
Or
with their
is it
full team.
isn't it Call Me Sus?
Well, no, SUS. Three's an E, right?
It is, but it
Call me Sue.
seems what Sue?
His
Yeah,
mum's called
I don't know.
Sue. His name's
True.
Kai Hao Su. Yeah, his name's Sue. SU. His surname. So call me Sue.
All right.
Oh yeah, bro. This
But
actually.
this,
Do
I
we
mean,
expect upsets here or not? Oh,
should
because
we
it.
just predict this really quickly because this
Well,
is
let's
a little bit
first of
of a
all before
mess.
we predict anything, let me read this out to you. We're going to bring this up for you guys on screen. Mihal says the Swiss system used at ESL Pro League Season 21 will differ significantly from that used at majors. Initial seeding is based on team selected seeding rather than VRS, and we're using live rating instead of Buchholz. Teams' ratings will update dynamically after each match, and quality of matchup combinations will be evaluated based on their ratings rather than their seed. Additionally, we've opted for a regular bracket pairing, 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15, to determine first round matchups instead of 1 versus 9, 2 versus 10. That's actually really
Yeah,
positive.
I think that's good. But the one part is it that teams
Teams will choose the first, yeah. So teams will say, I think the best team is Eternal Fighter here, and they'll be
Yeah,
ranked
yeah,
one. But it's
yeah, yeah,
remember, each one will
exactly.
rank how they want to do it.
Yeah.
So you always get some troll teams that are like, I'm Tai Lu, I'm number one. Ha ha ha. Just an example. They could put themselves as number one.
I'm pretty sure they don't rank themselves.
No, I know. I'm just memeing. I'm just saying, like, maybe they played against their local opposition.
Everyone puts themselves on top, you know.
But for example, if you're Lin Vision and Tai Lu, you just say one of us put each other at the top.
I mean, one thing here
Collusion.
we could just quickly see is that
Mhm.
people, I'm not sure, but seems to put Pain as the best one.
Because they're playing. No, so House Bets is the lowest rated. Oh yeah, House Bets is the lowest.
And Eternal Fire is playing Mind Freak. Obviously, this depends if who put Mind Freak and House Bets last, or
Yeah,
but either way,
we don't know who's put
they
who.
could have. They could have. Either way, I am predicting Pain against my House Bets, Eternal Fire against Mind Freak.
M80
Now,
FlyQuest is interesting.
I think, yeah, that one is interesting. I always think Asian teams can always be a little bit tricky to play. These like
Who?
Lin Vision and Tai
Ah,
Lu. So, because I mean, Tai Lu versus 3D Max, I think
oh, don't say
there's
it.
a potential Tai
Really?
Lu. Yeah, but I don't know
Bruh.
anything about Tai Lu. This is just like a random
Just
guess,
a
but I see a.
off
I
memory.
feel like they can always surprise, and I think looking at what 3D Max were prior tournament, they didn't look that stable. So
It's
there's
all best of threes,
upset
remember?
potential.
It's all best of threes. There's no best of ones in here.
Yeah,
Just remember that. All right, I'm on the
I'll still
HLTV
predict 3D
page. I'm
Max.
on the HLTV page for the matchups, right? Eternal Fire versus Mind Freak. You're predicting Eternal Fire?
Yeah.
Yeah. M80 versus FlyQuest.
I think M80.
I think M80. Yeah, I'll go with that. Heroic versus Saw. Heroic.
Yep.
3D Max Tyloo. You really want to sit on the Tyloo?
No, I'm saying 3D Max. I'm just saying there's
Okay.
upset potential.
Furia Lin Vision.
Furia has to grab this one, right?
I'm going to take Lin Vision. I can just see Furia lose to a team like
Oh, so
this where they've
this
got
is
no.
your.
Yeah, this is my. Because I believe in Zaka supremacy, man.
All right, all right. I'll
I'll
say
differ with you
Furia,
there.
but see what they can do.
Now, MIBR versus Namiga. X6 back in game leading. Yeah. Insani is a beast. I don't know. I don't rate any of these Namiga players at all. Zwei is supposed to be like an upcoming really good player from Russia. He's 17, but he's not rocking the best rating. If I'm just looking down that, I'm still gonna have to pick MIBR.
Yeah, MIBR all the way.
Namiga might take a map. Game Elysian versus NRG. I'm all in on Game Elysian.
Yeah, me too.
Cool. Nice
I
to see
think.
Nitro back, and Bro is there, which is cool and all, but still. And then Pain versus House Bets Pain, right?
Yep.
Now we also need to do this, Devil. We need to predict the 8 teams that are going to make it through to the next stage.
Okay, I'll do
So,
it quick.
yeah.
Heroic, MIBR, Furia, Gamer Legion, 3D Max, Pain, Eternal Fire, and M80.
Who are you missed Saw out of there? Yeah, okay. You think Fury will make it, yeah?
They have to, man.
All right. I think teams that might slip up making it would be Saw of their new lineup. I don't think it's going to do it, even though they made playoffs at Cluj, just different lineup again. And I think Furia or MIBR, there's a potential they could fall.
But I'd say MIBR for me is more stable than Furia.
But they just
in that.
changed IGL again and brought in their old player again back to the team.
True, but who would you put in there instead of, let's say we
You
remove
put
Furia and
M80 in though,
MIBR?
right? You put M80 in.
Yeah,
Let me look at
yeah.
MIBR. So who did we not put in?
So you have your Lin Vision, NRG FlyQuest, Nemiga. Like, who would you put in instead of MIBR and Furia?
I'd love to see Lin Vision do it, but it's going to be very hard for them to win. There's many games they need to win to get through. They can beat Mind
Yeah.
Freak and House Bets, but then maybe they can beat an NRG and a FlyQuest, but they're not going to get
Have you
that many
seen
easy
anything
matchups.
of NRG? Like,
No,
have you seen any games
nothing.
from them?
Nothing. But it's got Nitro on the team. The experience is there for him to be leading.
Looking at just like a last couple results, they have a lot of wins, but last time they met M80, they got 13-3 then 13-5.
Damn. Yeah, that's rough. That's really tough.
So
All right, so
I,
so we're putting through Eternal Fire, Pain, 3D Max, Game Legion, Heroic,
basically the
M
whole top
M80,
draw of, yeah,
but you want to also put MIBR and Fury in.
yes, I'm putting Heroic, MIBR, Furia,
So
Gamer Legion,
nothing
3D Max,
spicy,
Pain,
nothing
Eternal.
special. I'll just say I'll
No.
agree with you, but I think that Lin Vision or Namiga have a chance to also make it.
I'd agree on that, but
If NRG made it, I'd be shocked and surprised, but that's why I'm going with that.
yeah.
And then remember, so this finishes on the 5th. They get a 1-day break, and on the 7th, they have to play against, like, when we go to the main event, it's Spirit, Vitality, Mongols, Maus, Falcons, G2, Navi, Liquid. Liquid are only there because FaZe obviously declined. And to let you know, FaZe declined because Elise still hasn't moved to Europe properly, so I think he's going back to America now. And then kind of moved to his apartment and set everything up in Europe because he's living with Carrigan up until that point.
It's some tough opposition for the teams making it through.
Yeah. And Navi, by the way, have to do well here. Like, and also we need to show this, the prize distribution. It's $1 million tournament, just for you to know. But first place only walks with 100,000 and then 150,000 club share, which we are trying to understand this. We're going to try and find the information for the next show for you guys. But currently, how players' contracts will work is the prize money will be split maybe 80-20 to the players or 90-10 to the players in some situations. The club share goes just to the organization. It does count to the VRS rankings. So technically, it's 250,000 for first place. Yeah, if you're looking at VRS. But remember, the players are not getting a lot for this.
No, and if you like compare it to like a PGL, right? You get first place in ESL Pro League.
Mm-hmm.
There's 150K going to the organization and 100K to the players, right?
Yeah.
Which in some cases the teams would already take a part of your share of the prize money. Some, I don't know,
10
all
to 20,
or
we're saying,
who.
right? Between that.
Yeah. And essentially what we're wondering, is there any contractual thing with the club share since it's larger of a pool in most of the cases, except the only case there is a larger prize money than club share is if you're 12th to 14th, or if there's
We're
no
gonna
club share at all at 15th, 16th.
Yeah, we're gonna ask around and find out. Because remember, in the first stage that we just spoke about, there's no club share. There's top 8 teams qualify to the next stage where you're guaranteed money, and then 9th to 16th get a little bit of prize money upwards, but it's not much. Maximum is
Yeah.
6,500, lowest is 3,000 for just coming.
So
So,
it's a little bit weird, and looking from like a player's perspective, it almost looks like, you know, that the prize pool share then becomes like, if we just pile it up all into prize pool, right, and just think about it like that,
but this
because
is,
that's essentially what the VRS rankings has done, is that the club share counts as prize money,
yeah, so it's not hidden.
but that would mean, in that theoretical sense, that orgs are now taking up
A
to like
bigger
60,
cut.
70% of the prize money, and 40, 30% of the prize money is going to players, which is kind
Yes,
of
only for Pro League,
crazy
obviously,
to me.
right? There's still club
Yeah.
share. Like, let's look at Cato. I think Cato had its club share, but it's obviously such a smaller thing. 2025. So Cato, first place, 400,000 to Vitality, 60,000 club share. So EPL is the big club sharing one for the organizations.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And by the way, that first place, yeah, for example, wouldn't cover all the salaries. That club share doesn't cover the salaries for the players. That's a fact.
No.
There's
For
no
the
way.
biggest clubs.
For the big, yeah, for the big clubs. For some small clubs, it's a dream. That's golden ticket right there.
Yeah.
But this is kind of crazy because FaZe skipped this for the reason I said about Elige. Other than that, you've got pretty much all the big teams going. Are we missing anyone? Let me think. I don't
But
think
it's
so.
still like, you know, if I look from a player's perspective, and I come 5th in ESL Pro League, and we get to share, I'm fighting and battling for like 14 days in this
Not really
tournament.
14 days though, right? If you're already in the top 8.
But let's say you come from the play-in, right?
Yep.
You're battling for 14 days. You come 5th to 8th in EPL. You get 18K, which is like the equivalent of coming to a semi-final in a CCT.
Yeah. It's kind of rough. And by the way, it's still 9 days for the main teams. So it's 9 days. It's in Sweden now, in Stockholm. As far as I know, there's no crowd. So before in Malta, there
Oh,
was a
they're
little
doing it
crowd. I don't think there's
studio.
any crowd. It's just studio, which will benefit some teams more as well. But I feel like already teams didn't care about winning an ESL Pro League as much, right? From my understanding, when I've spoken to players, it's like it's a nice title to have, but they're not counting how many ESL Pro Leagues they win. Now, with the money being down here as well, there's even less. And it just seems like we must go to this, you know, because the organizations tell us
Yeah.
we must go to this because of this deal that they've done behind everyone's backs. Oh, it's such a weird time, man. Never did I think of having this conversation. Back in the day,
Uh,
and I mean, I'm going all the way back to the 1.6 days, people were fighting for the competition, not the prize money. But now, when it also factors into points and legacy of what you've done, like they're going to fight for prize money. But the problem is, when you look at this event, when you think your organization's doing this to you, that's got to be fucking tough for some players, man.
Yeah. But it's just like, it's marketed as a 1 million prize pool tournament. And if you
Mm-hmm.
come 5th to 8th, you get 18 grand. That to me is just insanity.
Luckily, they do have the big salaries to stomach it all. It's gonna be interesting. We will
Yeah.
be co-streaming, by the way, on my Twitch channel /BanKs, and I'll put it on YouTube as well. Me and Devilwalk will be co-streaming. We're not going to co-stream all of it, but we've been approved to co-stream. We will do quite a bit of it to show you guys. We'll just decide day to day. Anything else you want to touch on Pro League? Well, that's kind of it, right?
Uh,
It'll probably be the same kind of
I
talent
mean,
of fun stuff more than I'm not going, but it's gonna be more like the skits and the fun things going on than anything else.
I'll make Spirit my prediction.
To win it.
Maybe Vitality actually.
Oh, you want to do Vitality? I believe in
Yeah, I'll
Navi
take
because they
a.
can't risk not winning this now. Like they're so far
I
down. They must be
I'll
so
say
motivated.
Vitality. I'll go the random. Well, it's not that random, but I'll say Vitality is gonna win it. I like
Okay.
what I saw from Rops and Saibu.
Navi. Navi. Yeah, the Rob
What
Cyber combo is fucking insane,
what
bro.
what is it? What's the Vitality club? It's like the Golden
The
Hornets.
Golden Hornets, yeah. Oh, but
Yeah.
also you
So
got to look at the Intel Grand Slam. Let me see where the Grand Slam's at because this could be huge
ooh,
for current season Intel Grand Slam. Vitality have two, and two of those current wins that they have, yeah, are um brain. Come on, my brain. Cologne and Katowice, I think. Is it? Is it Cologne and Katowice? Katowice is there and Cologne. Yeah,
Katowice is
Katowice and Cologne.
there.
So they've won
Yeah.
two of the big ones, which means how many do they need now? They.
I,
I'm looking at the table. So if they win Pro League, that's another one. Rio's already gone.
how many do you need? 4?
4. So they just need to win the Intel Extreme Masters Spring, which I'm pretty sure is just no, it's not Cologne. They win Pro League, and then whatever this spring event is, which I guess is going to be Dallas. Oh no, it's Melbourne. Melbourne, and they are going to Melbourne. So if they can win Melbourne and Pro League, then they win the Grand Slam.
Damn. And how are Navi and Spirit doing on that? They have 2?
Navi's got 2, and they only So Navi's good. Spirit have only got 1.
Oh, okay.
FaZe have even got 2, but soon theirs will be cut off. Mal's only have 1, but that's also getting cut off soon.
All right.
Yeah, that's
Well, that's
interesting.
going to be interesting.
Yeah, that does make it more fun.
Yeah.
Before we get to the Q&A, there's one more thing I want to look at here, just because it's an Navi moment while we're talking about them. Army here from Navi, he's the head of esports. He said, "Hello everyone. Reading the news just makes me smile. We are not considering changing Wonderful. Please stop spreading this false insights." Now, obviously, there's Telegram channels, Russian-speaking Telegram channels, Harumi, Overdrive, and other people, and they obviously get some thoughts or someone says something, someone pushes out some information, and they post it. Like everyone thinks Simple's going to come back. The information that was put out there from other people was that the team does not want Simple to come back, right? This is a team that won the major. They had a huge amount of success last year. They were the best team in the world. Unless something goes fundamentally wrong for a long time, I don't think Wonderful's going to go anywhere. If the war ended and they could take Munacy, then definitely that would be good. Put Munacy and Bit together. But for now, it's like, you've still got something you can work with here, and he's still good in the system. Wonderful's not
Yeah.
perfect. He needs to get some more experience. He does make some
No, but he's
mistakes.
definitely not like a problem of the lineup. I think they work
No,
well together, and I think it's more like this. If Monacy is available, anyone would take him, and that isn't
but
the
they
same as
can't
looking
still.
to replace
Yeah.
someone.
If there was no war, they would already have Monacy on the team. They would already have him. Like Bit wants to play with him again. They are best friends. It would be
Yeah,
huge if they could bring it back together. But yeah, that I'm glad Army's just going straight out there because it must be for me. It must be hard for Wonderful, who's still very young. Let me just check how old he is. I think he's like 20. Wonderful is 20 years old. Yeah, he's still 20 years old. He's still like having to deal with so much pressure, and everyone's always pointing the finger at him. They don't say remove JL or Imma or Alexi. Definitely Bits. No one's ever going to say that. But everyone's always like, yeah, it's wonderful because obviously they have Simple on the bench. But there's a reason
I
Simple
think
hasn't
that's
been picked.
so overboard, like negative, because he's actually been good.
Yeah. And by the
Like
way,
he
his
hasn't been
rifle is
bad at
solid.
all.
His rifle is
His
solid.
rifle is much better. Yeah. And I mean, if you look at it, like, let's just make a comparison.
Mhm.
Let's say Wonderful in Navi and compare it to Brokey in Phase. I think Wonderful is doing a lot better than Brokey is. I'm not saying Brokey is doing bad, but I think it's a weird conversation to be having that people are pointing at Wonderful.
Yeah.
If you look at the comparison, at least.
Especially at the
Um,
level right now.
And I think a lot of people, they rate Brokey really, really highly in fails. So
Mhm.
I just wanted to give that kind of comparison because I think there's nothing wrong with Wonderful. I know there's some maps he struggle a little bit on comparably to others, but I think that's for everyone. Every single player has those kinds of moments with playstyle or not getting comfortable in the angles or let's look at Dust 2 as an example, right?
Yep.
Some operas have like 20 years of experience playing that map, and some of the newer kids, they haven't played that map at all competitively since it's got brought only when it got brought back in some sense,
Yep.
because it used to be a like the mirage of Counter-Strike in the past.
But yeah, I don't. Unless they do really bad for the rest of this year or the major, there's gonna be no changes till after Austin anyway for anyone. So we'll wait and see how
I,
it goes.
I don't think they should be making any changes, even if it goes a little bit bad. I think
Mhm.
they've proved that they can make it work with this lineup.
Well, let's get on to our Q&A and end episode for Mr. Devilwalk. So Q&A, everything came from Skorga
So,
here.
so we're saying goodbye again and then coming
No,
back.
no, we're not gonna. I'm not gonna mess this up. I've remembered the Q&A. It is here. This is all one take. There is zero problems right now. First question from Skorga says, with the allowance by Valve to allow the MRQs to be online, which is the major regional qualifiers, and Blast understandably taking this option from their point of view, obviously money, I'm sure. How bad do we think the Asia MRQ will be? I cannot wait for the lag peaks on a match between Middle East and Oceania. Bro, it's so bad. Like, this should not be an option. If we're talking about the major, for me, this should not be played online like this.
But isn't it like for them, like 200 to 250 ping or something like that?
Yeah, it's going to be terrible. And how do you agree on the fair server to play on? They're both going to be on 100 ping somewhere. They both play China servers. Like, first of all, for the Middle
I
East, there's no
mean,
good servers. There's zero good servers unless you're just playing on Middle Eastern servers.
is it like Singaporean servers in between, or
Yeah,
I don't even know what's
geography is not my strong point, but yeah, it's.
something like that.
I think
But
if
but
I'm
it's
Valve, right, I want Valve to say the major regional qualifiers must be played on a LAN somewhere, but Valve should take the cost for that. Valve
yeah, I
make
don't
enough
know
money
how
from
we
Counter
went
Strike.
from let's not have open qualifiers to have everything played online.
Yeah, Valve, please come on, man. Also give us medals for major winners, first, second, third. Make it mandatory. Like, just
Yes.
give us a little bit more on this, man. It's rough.
Remove a little bit of the prize money, make some
They don't
medals,
even need to do
everyone will be
that.
happy.
You don't even need to do that, bro. They're making enough money from fucking case openings.
Yeah.
There is no way in hell. Like, by the way, I fully appreciate Valve already spends so much money on this, but like, if I compare it to Dota TI, where I believe Valve even pay for the talent aren't being paid for by Valve. I would just love for Valve to like come in, give a little bit more on this stuff, some small details, and up the prestige level by doing these small extra things that players would love, that people would love, that the competitive field would love to an equal advantage, where we don't have to play online. That would be the dream. Please.
Yeah. But I mean, to answer the question, it's going to be a shit show if that happens. I
Yeah.
think it's going to be even a shit show in America because
Yeah, they can't. There's no good servers right in the middle. I think the good thing about the Americans for the organizations, they'd all go like boot camp in Dallas and play all from Dallas. You know.
but they have this weird thing where some are East Coast and some are West Coast,
Yeah,
and
they can't play good against each other. Some Americans, by the way, they ping better to Europe than the other side of America.
yeah, I'm pretty
That's
sure
nuts.
that East Coast pings better to Europe than West Coast.
That's crazy. That's
So I
crazy.
think both Asia, MRQ or major regional qualifiers, and America is going to be absolute shit show if this happens, because there's no fair way. I mean, you want the best for both teams to potentially, qualify for the the biggest tournament of their life. You know,
Yeah.
you don't want someone to get out of a match losing 13-11, being mad that he had 50 more ping than the other guy.
See, the only reason it's fine online is Europe. Apart
Yeah.
from maybe like for the Russian players, they'll just come to Serbia or something and do it. Like they should be fine, you know. But other than that, it's rough. It's really
Yeah.
rough. It's so
I don't
crazy.
even know what else to say. It's gonna be a really bad.
Well, we'll wait and see
People are
how
gonna
it plays
complain.
out. Yeah, well, of course they will every time they do anyway. His
True.
his second question, also from Scorga, because no one else is writing in the Discord, but we're going to commit to answering your questions. Do you think FaZe could live to regret choosing to skip EPL? Only 6 European teams make stage 3 of the major, and as of the 25th of February, they are ranked 4th, 1825 points, with Eternal Fire 7th, 34 points behind them. A poor showing at Blast could leave them relegated to stage 2 starting position. I think for FaZe, they just did Blast Bounty, Cato, Cluj. Obviously, they expect to win. Cluj and be even further up on the points. They can't regret it because I don't think they had any choice. Like I said about Alish having to go back to America now, move to Europe properly, and do all these things. This was the best time for them to do it because then they've got Lisbon and stuff as well. And the prize money and everything else is so low at EPL. Yes, beating other good teams there would be nice, but it could equally be as bad as losing points. Maybe it's a regret. It's all about hindsight. But either way, they as far as I'm aware, wasn't possible for them. This was the only option.
And I could potentially even seeing it being a blessing in disguise for FaZe. You know, getting some proper practice in, having these 2-ish
Lots of teams
weeks
will want to
to.
practice against them. Actually, yeah, good point.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it would be really good. Just getting them up 5-10% could
Hmm.
make them contention for winning tournaments again and making those deep runs. And I think FaZe is a team that could do that in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and that they always have been capable of that.
Yeah.
We'll come back to it after Lisbon. We'll see if we're right or wrong. And Skorga, amazing man he is. What a legend. Gives me plenty of subs in Twitch as well. Last question. Is too much tier 1 CS stopping tier 2 CS getting the usual watch time it had before? Viewership numbers are down by the general CS interested population, with CCT Season 2 Europe 18 only hitting a height of 16,000 viewers, Fnatic versus Monty, and a combined watch time of just under 300,000 hours. This is information I didn't even know, by the way, bro. Good shit. CCT Season 2 15, for example, hit a height of 22,700. Endpoint versus Koi, which is not even good teams, by the way. That's crazy. And over 650,000 combined watch hours. I don't know when the dates of these tournaments were. That obviously is also an important factor. So I think you need a bigger sample size to be able to justify what you're talking about. But if there is more tier 1.5 tournaments, then obviously the tier 2 scene will take a hit because you know what, I'm going to choose tier 1, 1.5 over 2 and 3 all day long. I'll be honest, I used to watch a bit more of the CCT stuff, but I've not been home since the beginning of January to now. I got back 2 days ago. I
There's
didn't watch any
definitely a lot
CCT.
less time.
Yeah.
I'll watch a game here and there if I don't have anything to do.
And
Uh,
that's us who are
but
hardcore.
yeah, but usually I'll even, living a life and having a CS tournament, going on at the same time, wanting to watch every single game, it's almost not feasible, even
Yeah.
in tier one. Because I have to rewatch some days where, even preparing for this podcast, I want to be able to talk about stuff that I've watched and not just guesstimate how things went, right? So even then, it's been kind of tricky to make sure I watch every single game of a tournament because that's a lot of hours.
Oh, yes. It's tough.
So I
Um,
think there is definitely with PGL coming in, there's even less time to kind of get into that CCT. But I also think the VRS system is a little bit to blame in the beginning because I think a lot of people don't really understand
mm-mm.
what's going on because I think some people even in the system haven't really fully figured it out yet. So
Nope.
it's gonna take some time to understand what the weight is on some tournaments compared to others, and if we can get kind of the clarity with watching. some tournaments. Oh, Fnatic is getting into CCT. Maybe if they get enough wins there or win the tournament, they might get enough points to be eligible for some invites. It's gonna start being a little bit more interesting to watch.
Yeah,
But right now, that's a little bit too complicated to get into for individual teams. So I think that matters a little bit.
for sure. Well, Scorgirl, thank you very much for your questions as always. If anyone else watching, wherever you're watching, YouTube, Spotify, Casterpod, Amazon Music, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, whatever the hell else we're producing on. If you've got questions, join the Discord. It's also on the allaboutcs.gg website. You can see it all there. And put your questions in. We will answer them. It can even be questions personal to us. It doesn't have to be about the scene. Anything you want. But my cappuccino is wearing off. I'm starting to get tired. We have banged out over 2 hours of this episode. It is all about
Yep.
Counter-Strike episode 4 coming at you in 2025. The grind continues. The episodes continues. Devilwalk, you feeling good?
Yeah, I'm feeling great. I'm gonna go watch Spurs get beaten by Man City and have a good time.
And we will be doing some ESL Pro League co-streaming. We probably won't do an episode in between playing and then the end of the event because it's just, what's the point? You may as well do the whole of the EPL summary afterwards going into Blast, I believe. So
Unless something drastic happens in the scene,
yeah,
I'd
maybe we'll do
say.
a shorter episode or something like that. But yeah, you'll catch another episode from us very soon. I hope you're enjoying the content. Thank you for all the support, the views. We were like a top 3 ranked podcast in a random country the other day. So wherever you're watching from, thank you very much. Keep subscribing, keep supporting, and peace.